This meeting. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bumke?
Here.
Mr. Cavalier?
Here.
Mr. Cohen? Here. Mr. D.
Here.
Mrs. Maurer? Ms. Shelton?
Here.
Mr. Snelling?
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
I guess we all know what happened in New Zealand last week, a horrific act that killed 50 people and wounded dozens. So at this time, I would like to join me and stand as we observe a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Additions and deletions and approval of the regular agenda. Mr. Dudenhofer.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have one add-on. It's to the consent agenda, Public Works. Authorize the county administrators submit a grant application to the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation for improvements to the Kennedy Dam at Lake Carroll. Proposed resolution is R19-103. And we have two deletions, Mr. Chairman, and that is items number 10 and 11 on the agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohen. Any discussion? Cast your votes. Tally the vote.
Almost called you Mr. Speaker.
Motion passes 7-0. At this time, we're going to do public presentations. And just remind everyone that you have 3 minutes when you come to the podium. Once you state your name and address, you can speak on any subject that you like. So feel free to discuss whatever you want to discuss with us this afternoon. I do have 2 speaker cards. The first one is Mr. Craig Harper. You prefer to speak in the evening? That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Harper. My next speaker card is Dana Brown.
Hi, I'm Dana Brown. I live at 41 St. William's Way in the Rock Hill District, and I'm here to speak about a budget item. I sat in your work session earlier today, and I'll be hanging around for the later one. But I want you to know, I talk about this every year, I have found a way to shave about $1 million off the school's budget request. Several different ways, but we are spending more than $1 million bringing in students from out of Stafford County for out-of-county teacher perks. It's a very expensive perk for a very, very small fraction of our teachers who don't live here and don't pay taxes in Stafford County. I've brought this up for the last few years, but the out-of-district teachers complained to the school board, and they implied that they'll quit without this perk. I doubt that because they make good money here. According to the county's website, the FY19 budget is showing a local share of per pupil spending, and I believe $5,106. It's on page 258. The schools don't like to use that number because that includes debt service, which is the actual true cost. Instead, they publish a lower number so it looks like you don't fund them very well. They claim their per pupil spending that you give them is $4,314. Now, I had to submit a FOIA to get this number, but this year we have 172 kids out of district with 122 families, and 13 of those 172 kids are receiving special ed services. So, based on the real number, that's a base cost of about $878,000 before you add any special ed costs, and 13 of those kids, like I said, are receiving this. That's going to pop it way over $1 million. Stafford Schools has about 4,000 employees. Only 122 families, about 3%, are receiving this annual extra benefit, and they don't even live here. The employees that do live here don't get any of this, except we all get to pay the bill for the non-residents. It's a very uneven benefit, and I believe we're rewarding non-residents and shortchanging those who do live here. School staff says it's vitally necessary for teacher retention. I disagree. Of 1,878 teachers last year, it looks like we lost about 68 teachers to other counties, and that's from a budget work session handout from the schools back in February. That's less than 4%. It's actually 3.6%. A simple Google search will tell you that 10% is an average employee turnover for a company. We're well under that. This benefit is only supposed to be for licensed professionals. This includes more than just teachers. It can be diagnosticians, social workers, guidance counselors, and central office employees who no longer work in the schools but still hold a license. And I think we're not keeping track of all the employees taking this benefit. I think this because I had to FOIA the information and was charged $63 because the CFO himself had to chase down the information from several different departments to get a tally. Prior to my request, they didn't have a number. This should be kept, tracked, and authorized in HR, and that doesn't appear to be happening. I've heard from school personnel that bus drivers are taking this benefit. Well, I'm out of time, but thank you
Ms.
very
Brown.
much.
I have no more speaker cards. At this time, I'll invite anyone else on my right that would like to speak. When you start, the green light will come on, the yellow light will come on when you have about a minute, and when the red light flashes, you need to wrap up. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak before you. I've had several people speak on my behalf, both for me and against me. My name is Mike Bird. I'm the president of New Direction Golf Management and the general manager and head professional at the Gauntlet Golf Course. The Gauntlet Golf Course is a pretty special place, and I've spent 14 years trying to make it a special place. New Direction Golf Management is a company that I formed last year, 13 years after I started with the company, with the Gauntlet Golf Course. So I'm here to tell you, really just to make an introduction to why. I'm not here asking for anything. I'm not here doing anything. I just want you to know why New Direction Golf Management is so important for the leadership of golf in your community. New Direction Golf Management is based on growing the game of golf within the community that it's in. And in this case, we have one golf course and we're in Stafford County. So for the past 14 years, and especially the last year, we have been the leaders in player development for golf in this community. We have grown junior golf to a level that is competitive with Richmond and Northern Virginia. We have over 200 kids playing in a PGA Junior League that was started by New Direction Golf Management. We have 20 kids. I just got my 20th kid that got a scholarship that went through the Fredericksburg Golf and Sports Academy, started by New Direction Golf Management. We also spearheaded an agreement with the Department of Game and Inland Fishery, which has been a very common topic here. And I spoke with David Whitehurst, the director, and we came to some common ground so that we could both benefit the habitat and keep the golf course playable. And now we are working in partnership under this agreement to make sure that this happens. It's the first 50 feet of the boundary between the lake and the golf course is a buffer zone designed to filtrate water from the golf course grounds based on the chemicals that we put on the course and keep it filtrated out of the lake. We maintain that buffer zone. We've actually been able to educate the Department of Game and Inland Fishery to ensure that the buffer zone that we're going to maintain holds up better than what they had before. But at the end of the day, what was most important about that was an agreement was made after 5 companies. Nobody else had made that agreement. We were able to make that agreement, and now the golf course is going to be playable. And am I out of time? I can talk for a long time. 3 minutes is not long for me about talking about this. But anyways, I'm just here to make that introduction because the Gauntlet Golf Course, New Direction Golf Management, tends to be a pretty hot topic here. And this time now you know the face, now you know the name, and if there's anything that I can do for the county, I'm here for it.
Thank you very much. Great tournament this weekend, by the way, that players. Whew. I don't play golf. I'm banned from most courses. Anyone else on my right would like to address the board? Seeing none, anyone on my left would like to address the board? Yes, please come up. We gotta fix this thing. When people get up here, it's terrible. Hi.
My name is Teresa Gaddy, and I live at 15 Johnson Mill Ridge in South Stafford. I wasn't expecting to speak right now. I may speak tonight, but I want to speak on behalf of my colleagues who bring their children to work. We have a number of teachers who work south of Stafford, which means that in order to get to work, they travel 95 north, and we all know what that's like in the morning. So the amount of childcare that some of these teachers would probably have to get in order to make sure that their kids were watched at that time in the morning and then safely placed on the bus, and also the amount of time that it would take and childcare afterwards, driving 95 south to get home. I just know that we would be eliminating quite a large population of teachers who travel north and work for our county. And given the current teacher shortage and even the economic climate, I don't think that's a good decision to make. So I think that's a nice way of treating people like people and not numbers. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on my left like to address the board?
Yeah, good thoughts. Paul Waldo Whiskey. That's what the judge called me today. Can you believe that? Then he dismissed my case, trying to help out my fellow serviceman who had his truck towed. It's okay. All right, I'm here to talk about anchor properties, okay? You know, redevelopment is a big deal in Stafford County, especially in the town of Aquia. We know about the town of Falmouth, you know. We're working on that in gerrymandering. But let me give you some examples of anchor properties. I mean, the most obvious is Amazon in Long Island. You saw what happens when Lady Justice takes off her blindfold and puts a pirate's patch on and she goes to the left. You lose business. Simply amazing. But let's go to Prince William County. And IKEA, what an anchor property. You know, I remember when Potomac Mills was here. And now look at how it's all blossomed. And Spotsylvania Mall, there's another one. The Firebirds, you know, it's a sit-down restaurant. I don't think there's any of those on 17. I can't find them. The Waffle House, though. I go there every now and then. But the Firebirds is a very interesting aspect. And when I went to Xfinity in the Spotsylvania Mall, which got repurposed off 610, I found out there's a Firebirds in Woodbridge also. So I just thought I'd share some of those aspects. Now, the Aquia Town Center, you know, it had Shoppers, which is not really an anchor store. Wegmans is the 21st century grocery store. Let's be realistic. But I love Rydell because they deliver the water and the bananas right to my house. I don't even have to go on 17 anymore. It's great to be a senior citizen. It's just amazing. So glad we invented the iPhone. That's all I got to do is put the tip underneath the mat. They don't even bother the dogs. And let me keep addressing gerrymandering in this county. We need 4 quadrants. We need a member at large. I keep telling you that if we only had 5 school board members, 5 supervisors, 5 planning commissioners, we'd save $385,000 in stipends. And guess who that could go to? Education, education, education. And if we make the town of Falmouth the town it was in 1728, then we'd only save even more money. Good thing I'm not running for Rock Hill.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on my left like to address the board? Anyone else in the room at all? Okay, bringing it back to the board. Just for informational purposes, the school board budget will be presented to us at 4:30 by the school board. So we've got about an hour and 15 minutes. With that, comments, reports by board members. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Dudenheffer.
I'll pass.
Mrs. Mauer.
Yeah, I'm going to pass, but I do want to let my constituents know that there's going to be little speaking for me today. I am suffering from a cold. I know the rest of my board's happy.
Ms. Shelton.
Just briefly, just remind people on the 28th, which is next Thursday, is the roundtable meeting. So all the conversations that you guys want to have with me for the Quiet District, we can have at our scheduled monthly roundtable meeting next Thursday at the hospital at 7 p.m. And that concludes my comments.
Ms. Baumke.
Yes, thank you. Last night at the GWRC meeting, we had a census employee tell us all about the process for this year's census counting. It's very different than in the last time the census was done, and I would like to request of the chairman if we would invite this person or somebody from the census to come and share a presentation so that the public is informed about the census this year and the different tools that they're going to be using for the collection of information. Also at the George Washington Regional Commission and the FAMPO meeting last night, we received the county administrator's report from Fredericksburg, Stafford, and Spotsylvania regarding the structure and the purpose of each organization and how we work together. And basically what we resolved after a lot of discussion was a representative from each jurisdiction, the city, Spotsylvania, and Stafford, is they're going to work on a draft revised memorandum of understanding. And they're going to submit that draft to the GWRC board and also the FAMPO board. And in the end, they will all be the document will be voted on by both entities. So hopefully that will help clarify some issues in moving forward. Also, I wanted to mention that the Stafford High School won first place in the Virginia High School League State Theater Festival on March 2nd. They did an avant-garde adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. So I would like to request, Mr. Chairman, that we recognize them probably in May after their spring show is over, spring play, which I think is in April. And then also, the Stafford Hospital, as we all know, just celebrated their 10 years, and they're having their annual race April 6th. So I hope everybody can come out for a walk and a race. Last year, Miss McClendon didn't even tell us that she was going to run, and she ran and beat everybody, and we walked and caught up with her at the end. But please come out. It's a great event, and you get a little exercise to boot. And then the last thing is I would just like to let the public know that we've been requesting the school board budget from their budget office since last week because we knew that we had this work session with them tonight. And as many of you know, I used to be on the school board, and we always tried to make sure that the Board of Supervisors had the budget in advance of our meeting so we could have a lot more of a productive conversation. Just want to let you know that we received their budget today. So for me personally, I'm disappointed in that because I like to look at numbers and review things before I have to vote on something. So I'm just a little frustrated that it took them a week to get that document over to us. So just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Mr. Cavalier.
Thanks, Cheryl. Instead of my usual remarks, I wanted just to add something to what Chairman Snelling said about the tragedy in New Zealand, because it is a long ways away from here, and people don't realize sometimes the carryovers. But religious hatred and discrimination is a particularly despicable thing, and there's no place for it in our society, especially here in Stafford or any place close to home here. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that. Thank you.
Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Ms. Giles. Very quickly, I attended the Healthy Generations monthly meeting right at the day after our last meeting. I volunteered at the White Oak Volunteer Rescue Saltfish Breakfast. which is a great program that we have that our volunteer fire and rescue do, and I encourage people to support that as much as possible. Several of us went to the American Legion Centennial Celebration. It's hard to believe, but the American Legion was created after the First World War and is 100 years old. And our veterans do a great job. There were many great veterans at that event, including some that serve on this board. There was one veteran that served in World War II, and it's really great to spend time with our veterans and our elderly. I volunteered at the White Oak Oyster Roast this past Saturday, which I like doing. If the members of the board and the public may remember, we honored Mr. Frank McCarty last year for his work. He's raised over $1 million for people who are in need, who have health needs, he and his churches. This year was the 35th year that has been in operation. So it's a really great accomplishment for him, and we appreciate all he does for our county. And then lastly, I was also in attendance at the GWRC meeting last night. So, and I will end my comments.
Mr. Snellings.
Just real quick, to echo what Ms. Bomke said, I've been on the board 14 years, and I have never had a year where we didn't get a school budget in advance. It was delivered by email this morning, and that was just the overview. We still don't have the budget at 11:45 this morning. So we're going to go into a work session tonight and not have a clue as to what questions to ask. The other thing is I want to piggyback on Ms. Bomke's comment about the race, Stafford Hospital race. So important. That money comes right back into this community, helps people pay medical bills that can't afford it. So if you don't have anything to do on April the 6th, spend $35 and come on out. I'll be there. I'm not sure. They assured me they're going to have ambulance service. So I think I'll be good to go. So thank you, Madam Clerk. Report of the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no report at this time.
County administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick point of clarification. We did receive a link late Friday to the budget from the schools, and it was in an email. I don't know if it was very clear, but it was a link. And what we've been trying to do is to get their presentation so that you'd have a sense of the big issues, the big things that you'd need to have a conversation about. And just for clarification, that's the thing that came at 11:30 today. I think the point is still the same. I think you all need information well in advance to be prepared for joint work sessions. And so I think regardless of that clarification, I think the issue is really the same. I have, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, 2 items. And the first one you'll have before you on the dais, an effort that has been underway for a number of months led by Anthony Tuigo to evaluate our benchmark localities that we look to compare ourselves when we're doing new policies or looking at financial matters and so forth. And as you see from the spreadsheet that you have, it is a very extensive analysis, and I think you all know that that's the way Anthony does things. But he's going to come up and just talk to you for a few minutes about this analysis and what it has revealed on perhaps some new localities that we would want to look at on a more regular basis. It is not and was not designed to be a super statistically significant regression analysis type of work, but to really look across the state and look at some of the criteria that we've identified and see where we have localities that seem to be more similar to us, so that we might evolve a little bit in terms of who we look at, given the rate of growth and the other things that we've discussed. So he's going to talk to you a little bit about how he got to these. We're not looking for you to make a big decision. Ultimately, just thought we'd share this with you, and if you have some comments, that'd be wonderful. With that, I'll turn it over to Anthony.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Anthony Tuigo of County Administration. And as Mr. Foley said, here to talk about this comparative locality analysis I've been working on for a very long time now, so I'm pleased to share this with you today. So we'll go ahead and move into the background. So again, I've been working on this analysis since about summer of 2018. It started at the May 1st, 2018 Community and Economic Development Committee meeting, whereby Ms. Shelton had made a request to really analyze our comparative localities based on some objective statistical criteria. So in this case, we are using the term comparative. Comparative is defined as of or relating to represent as similar. In the past, we've kind of used that interchangeably with the term peer. In this context, peer kind of means, or peer means equal or among. So by that notion, any of our other counties or cities in Virginia can be a peer locality. I'm confident comparative is the appropriate term. So moving forward, just a little bit more background. We frequently have benchmarked ourselves to the counties of Albemarle, Fauquier, Loudoun, Hanover, Prince William, and Spotsylvania. And this dates back to about the mid-2000s during Steve Crosby's time as county administrator. I don't have any evidence or justification of a past analysis for those 6, so there's a good opportunity that was presented to reevaluate today. So the analysis before you on the dais contains all 95 counties and 38 cities in Virginia. There are 17 categories of the most recently available statistical data, and these were obtained from a variety of sources: the American Planning Association, Weldon Cooper, United States Department of Agriculture, Virginia Department of Education, as well as the Census Bureau. Now, Stafford's data for each of these 17 localities, Stafford statistics, are the baseline metric. So everything that I've compared in this analysis is being compared to Stafford's numbers. So won't go into too much detail here, but of the 17 categories, there are 4 groups. Each of these deal with the locality's demographic. Number 1, starting with population and land area. So your population, your land area density. Public spending, how much a locality spends. 3rd, various quality of life indicators. And 4th deals with education levels as well as unemployment and poverty. So each of the 17 categories has a tremendous amount of variance within them. And just as an example, I'll throw out there, under population, the highest, most populated county in the state is Fairfax at over 1 million people. The lowest populated county is Highland, just north of the Homestead in Bath County. That has 2,000 people. So it's very difficult to do, let's say, a mean or a range or any statistic like that if we're comparing solely to Stafford's because of that variance. So localities with figures closest to Stafford's were awarded 1 point per category. A total of 17 out of 17 points is possible. So the results. Spotsylvania is number 1 with 10 similar statistics, clear and away. Prince William is second with 9, followed by James City with 8, and Hanover with 7, which is a pretty strong top 4. We did have several localities tie for 5th: Henrico, Chesterfield, Albemarle, Roanoke, Culpeper, King George, Goochland, and also the city of Pequoson. And speaking with Tom, we decided to take a bit of a deeper dive into those 6. And of them, Henrico, Chesterfield, and Albemarle look and feel the most like Stafford, really due to their location near major population centers, their growing population rates, high rates of expenditure, and similar quality of life and employment statistics. So in conclusion, staff is confident this analysis justifies the acceptance of Spotsylvania, Prince William, James City, Hanover, Henrico, Chesterfield, and Albemarle counties as Stafford's comparative locality group. And the county at times may be required to deviate from this, especially if we're comparing, let's say, for employment statistics, we might need to compare to the Northern Virginia region, but that would vary based on circumstance and occasion. And I also recommend we take a look at this every 5 years. We haven't done that in the past, and we are where we are now. But as Stafford changes and the world around us changes, it's good to just update this continuously, especially as new data becomes available. And that's everything.
Any questions? Michelle, you have a question?
No, sir.
I have one.
Sure.
Where is the city of Pequoson?
Pequoson is in Hampton Roads. It's near York County.
Okay, that's a new one on me.
Yeah.
It's actually a small city, and it's a city, and that's why some of those things, they might have lined up on a few statistics, but we didn't think they were very comparable. That's why we eliminated
Right.
them.
Sounds like a good day trip, Pequoson.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent job. Thank you. Mr. Foley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to address one other thing that has happened recently. There was an article in the paper earlier this week in the Freelance Star about a cleanup initiative along the Rappahannock River. There were a few things in there that were a little bit misleading, and I just wanted to clarify a few things. It suggested that this was a big volunteer effort for cleanup, and that wasn't actually the case, but I did want to let you know what really did go on there and lead it to a little bit of a broader discussion about our efforts to maintain that facility down there at Falmouth Beach, which frankly has become pretty challenging. But the effort that was underway was not an organized cleanup initiative, but rather preparation for an exercise organized by emergency management in conjunction with an organization called Team Rubicon, a not-for-profit organization assisting communities with disaster response. So we were down there preparing for them to do an exercise, and fortunately, through the creative efforts of our staff, we've looked for opportunities to do things that would have more than one benefit, and this is a good example of that. Last weekend's activities featured the repositioning of debris from the Falmouth Beach and adjacent walking trails into small piles. Our utilities staff and our Parks, Rec, and Community Facilities staff were involved to a total cost of about $11,500. However, this money was money we had in the budget anyways to clean up the beach and to do some of the things that we would typically do by Parks and Recreation. It obviously resulted in cleaning up the beach and creating this opportunity. The debris piles will be used for a chainsaw training exercise by our emergency management staff and Team Rubicon, and that will be on March 30th and 31st. And just to clarify, and the paper clarified today, that's not a volunteer effort. Come one and all to help us clean up. This is an effort with chainsaws and emergency management personnel, and it's going to be highly contained and monitored. It is really a training exercise with a lot of good purpose. But there may be some exercises in the future where volunteers will be asked to come out, and frankly, volunteers have helped tremendously given the difficulties we've had this past year with the flooding. Mr. Cohen has helped organize getting volunteers involved in some cleanup. Just wanted to clarify, really, that this was a cleanup effort for this particular exercise, and it's not a volunteer call out for more folks to come out on that weekend. But really, I think the bigger issue here is this effort and the excessive amount of rain and flooding that we've had this year has really led to a number of bigger questions about how much money we want to continue spending on a river that by its very name means flooding river. I think that's the definition of Rappahannock, or its meaning. And I think over the years, we've put a lot of money into continuing to clean up. And obviously, we've got a flooding problem down there that's affecting homeowners and the road and a lot of safety things. And I think the big question becomes, do we want to continue to maintain that as a beach and continue to put this type of investment in it when it's something that's going to continue to flood and continue to create some safety hazards for the folks down there, in particular because it is just an open area and not a place that helps to contain floods from getting to roads, roadways, and homes. So there's been a lot of good conversation and effort gone on down there recently, but I think because of differing views in the community down there, our staff has begun to get kind of caught in the middle. I think sometimes it's felt like we're not doing enough, and I think in the recent exercise of cleanup, it was thought that we did too much. Part of that is folks that want to maintain it as a beach and others that think it ought to grow back up with vegetation and become more of a barrier for flooding. So with all of that said, I've actually told our staff to hold off on continuing to do work down there till we could have a little bit broader conversation with the board and get some direction from you all as to how you might want to proceed. In 2015, this conversation came up. I don't think that it ever made it to the full board, but there was actually some good work done on alternatives down there, particularly as it related to riparian buffers and some erosion control and things like that. So I guess I would just say, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I would like to suggest and recommend that the Infrastructure Committee take a look at this issue and at least get some background and some understanding about what's been going on down there, how much we spent, and perhaps even revisit the look that was done in 2015 to determine if we should take a little different approach there. Citizens down there have been great. Tom Cohen has been great in terms of organizing help. But I think we have gotten to that place where the community's unsure about what they want to do, and it's putting us in a difficult spot, kind of being in the middle of it. So I put that out for conversation. I've heard some of you all say that you thought we ought to take a look at this, and I thought this was probably the good time to bring it before you, just to see if there's some direction. And you may decide that you think something else should be done there. The Infrastructure Committee was just one thought.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir, and just didn't know if there was any direction on that.
So I'll open it up to the board. Are there any comments on what Mr. Foley just reported? Is a consensus to send it to infrastructure, or Mr. Cohen, it's your district?
Yes, and I give Anthony Twigo a great amount of credit for this. We had a roundtable where we talked about it. We got a great number of suggestions, so I think it is worthwhile taking what was done in 2015 and taking the different suggestions and things that we had from the roundtable. We asked people for short-term ideas and long-term ideas, and then also with communication about flooding as well, not just the long-term, what should we do down there, and then ask staff to sort of look at what the process would be to do any of those, and then we could go back and see what was the sense of what we needed to do. So it dovetails very nice what I had started last year on the board in trying to do this. So I agree. I think Mr. Foley's correct that it wouldn't be sensible to come up. I don't know if you want infrastructure. I don't know if you want some other structure to do it. But I just think we're sort of at the point where we need to figure out what we want to do holistically down there.
Ms. Bomke?
So I do remember when we had a discussion in 2015, there are a lot of feelings on one side and the other. I remember we discussed, apparently there are a lot of people that come from Prince William County to our beach to use the beach. I don't know from a sheriff's perspective what kind of monitoring they do down there. Do they have problems? I don't know. We would have to look at the data and the statistics. But I think it warrants bringing it to the Infrastructure Committee and having a conversation and then bringing it up with the entire board.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I agree. Infrastructure's fine, so we'll put it on next infrastructure. Ms. Shelton, your chair, is that okay?
Actually, I love the idea. I was thinking immediately about, I don't know if you guys know about it, but there are quite a few grants that are available for restoration areas of things like this, so I think it's just the right time. So thank you for bringing that up.
So we'll put it on next infrastructure, which I think meets in 2 weeks, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Consent agenda, there was nothing pulled from a consent. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So, moved by Mr. Cohen, second by Mr. Dudenheffer. Cast your votes. Tally the vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 12, new business, continued. No, I'm sorry. Let me back up here. Unfinished business, item number 9. Public Works, consider the condemnation exercise of quick take powers in connection with the Route 1 Courthouse Road Intersection Improvement Project, proposed resolution R19-10. Ms. Shelton.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this. My mic was not on. I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution R19-10.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bomke. Any discussion?
Were they prepared to make a presentation of exactly what it is? Is that why they came forward?
It was pretty much the same presentation from last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had I have a motion and a second. Have any discussion? Seeing none, cast your vote. Tally the vote. Motion passes 7-0. Folks, this is unless I'm reading all of this wrong, we just made history. Our meeting is concluded until 4:30 this afternoon. We had a couple deletions. We will adjourn until 4:30, which time we'll come back and hear this.
No, we're going to recess.
We're going to recess, I'm sorry. Let me get my terminology correct. We're going to recess until about 4:30. School board will be here, I'm sorry? Is that okay? Is recess all right? You
Yes.
sure? Okay.
I like recess.
Okay. We're going to go outside, enjoy the sunshine. We'll come back about 4:30. The school board will make their presentation. Welcome back to the afternoon session of the Stafford County Board of Supervisors. We've got the school board with us and Dr. Kisner with us this afternoon to present the budget. And I believe Dr. Chase is going to present the budget to us. There will be no questions during this period. At 5 o'clock, we will recess and go upstairs to ABC for a work session, and then come back down at 7 o'clock for the remainder of the meeting. So with that said, Dr. Chase was here. Chairman Healy is going to introduce. I'm sorry. You come on up.
Dr. Chase is going to present the budget. I'm just going to introduce her. I think she stepped out for just a minute. First, we want to thank you for this opportunity to present the Stafford County Public Schools fiscal year 2019-2020 proposed budget. And we have titled this budget, Investing in Stafford's Future, Creating a Journey of Excellence for All. And Dr. Chase is the chairman of our Finance and Budget Committee, as well as being the vice chairman of the school board. And she has a presentation that is prepared to give you information about our proposed budget here. Grand entrance, Dr. Chase.
Hello. Thank you for inviting us to present this year's Stafford County School Board budget request.
Dr. Chase, if I could ask you just raise it up a little bit. There you go.
Am I good?
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Just get this. There we go. The ongoing success of Stafford County Public Schools is dependent upon the partnership between the Board of Supervisors and the school board. To begin, I want to take a few minutes to review some of the accomplishments of this partnership over the past year in the areas of compensation, additional positions, capital improvements, and additional investments. This past year, in the area of compensation, we were able to give an across-the-board 2.5% salary increase. We successfully reached the initial goal set in January of 2015 of implementing a market-based compensation model. All our teacher salaries for this year were at the median of the comparison market set in 2015. We were able to increase salaries for paraprofessionals, bus drivers, and monitors. Their salaries were below the bottom of our comparison division market. They are now at the minimum of the market. Last year, we were able to fund a number of additional positions. We added 17 general education teachers to address growth in the number of students enrolled in Stafford County Public Schools. We were able to improve school parity by adding 3 elementary school focus teachers. Now, all 17 of our elementary schools have a dedicated focus teacher. Last year, 6 of our elementary schools shared half-time teachers. We also now have a full-time orchestra teacher at each of the 5 high schools. We also added 4 English as second language teachers. We have been working toward the goal of having a dedicated diagnostician at each of our elementary schools, and we were able to get closer to that goal last year by adding 4 more diagnosticians. Our special education population continues to grow, and we added special education teachers and paraprofessionals. In the area of capital improvements, work on the new Moncure Elementary School continues with a current construction completion date of June 30th. I believe a number of you can be seen in this photo from the Moncure groundbreaking. We have successfully purchased and begun the renovation of the North Star Early Childhood Education Center. The current completion date for this project is July 12th. Finally, we should see mobile classrooms installed at Ferry Farm Elementary School this summer, with renovation work beginning in October. There have been a number of other improvements as a result of our ongoing partnership. We have purchased 9 additional school buses in order to keep our fleet up to date. We have joined the efforts to have centralized purchasing and procurement, and we have already reaped some savings. The bid for the North Star renovation project came in under budget. We have made a number of upgrades to our school security infrastructure, and we have successfully piloted the elementary school protection officer program at Hartwood and Moncure Elementaries. So thank you very much for your continuing support. It's much appreciated. And I just, as an aside, would note that each of these photographs, staff tells me, were taken by Dr. Kisner as he's been visiting all of our schools, and they tell me that there's a story behind every one of those photographs. All right, so in developing the budget for FY20, we set a number of goals and priorities for Stafford County Public Schools. But our ultimate goal is really very simple: for all Stafford children to receive an excellent education according to their individual needs, interests, and abilities. We set our budget objectives with this goal in mind. We want to attract, retain, and develop the Stafford County Public School workforce. We want to expand learning opportunities for our students, and we want to ensure equity and excellence for all of our students. However, in trying to reach these goals, there are a number of challenges. We experience continued growth, high staff turnover, providing competitive compensation for our employees. Our student population is changing, and we must meet the needs these changes require. There are also new accreditation standards and mandates from Richmond that we have to address. I believe that Mr. Foley recently noted that Stafford County is now the third fastest growing area in Virginia. We have overtaken Prince William County. Perhaps then it isn't all that surprising that our student enrollment continues to grow and is projected to continue growing for the foreseeable future. This graph presents student enrollment since 2009. You can see the school year plotted on the horizontal axis and the number of students enrolled in Stafford schools along the vertical axis. We are projecting approximately 400 additional students next year, and we will need additional staff to work with these students. Whoops, go back hold on a second. There we go. We have been experiencing a relatively high rate of teacher turnover. A modest amount of staff turnover is considered healthy for an organization. As people retire, new talent is brought into the organization. Healthy turnover would be somewhere between 5 and 8%. On this slide, you can see the percentage of turnover for each of the past 3 years. Note that in each of the 3 years, it's above 8%, and last year it's close to double that. This is concerning because an important variable for student success is the relationship students form with teachers. If the teacher in a building is constantly changing or the teachers are changing, then students will have a difficult time developing long-term relationships. High turnover can also result in a loss of knowledge about individual students. For example, last year's teacher could share successful behavioral management strategies with this year's teacher for a challenging student. And if that teacher's not there, they can't share that knowledge. In addition, our teachers are younger. Over half of our teachers have less than 12 years of experience. Greater teacher experience typically results in better student outcomes. Most educational professionals believe it takes about 3 years to become a truly effective teacher. I can tell you from personal experience, I was not very good my first year. Currently, 21% of our teachers have 3 or less years of experience. That's 1 in 5. At what point in their career are staff leaving Stafford County Public Schools? On this slide, years of experience in 5-year increments is presented along the horizontal axis. And the percentage of licensed staff leaving is along the vertical axis. So it doesn't add up to 100 because it's the percent within each year, each 5-year increment. People sometimes, we expect high turnover at the start of a teacher's career, years 1 to 5. People sometimes begin working in education and then they realize it's not for them, right? And so they switch careers. Unfortunately, we also see quite high rates of turnover for the first 15 years of employment in Stafford. Professionals with 5 or more years of experience are the ones we want to keep in Stafford County Public Schools. We have made significant investments in providing training for these individuals during their first 3 years of experience. And note in this graph that this is only resignations, so you aren't seeing retirements at the 30-year mark. So we're also losing teachers to retirements. It's also important to note that when we lose teachers in certain critical shortage areas, we may not be able to replace them easily. As of yesterday, we have 58.5 vacant teaching positions in the county. Some are actually empty, others are filled with long-term substitutes, or teachers are being asked to give up their planning blocks to teach extra sections. While they are being compensated for teaching these extra sections, I can tell you from personal experience that teachers get burnout when they have no planning time built into their day. It is particularly worrisome when we have vacancies in multi-year subjects, such as math or foreign language. If a student doesn't learn how to work with fractions during Math 6 or 7, they're going to struggle in Algebra 1. And that's going to be a problem for those students and also for that teacher. So for some of these positions, we are also having to contract out to fill them. And in that case, we pay top dollar for contract positions specifically for special education. So my next question is, when teachers leave Stafford County Public Schools, where do they go? And this is an important question because when the school system adopted the market approach to compensation in 2015, the superintendent at that time, Dr. Benson, noted that once we met our initial goal of the median of the market, we might need to adjust which counties we use for comparison or where we want to be in the market. So on this next slide, the number of teachers is at the bottom of the graph. The county the teacher went to when they left Stafford County Public Schools is along the left margin. We're presenting data for the past 3 years, and each year is depicted with a different color. I don't know how well you can see that. The darkest blue is last year, the kind of gray is the year before, and then the lighter blue is 2005, 2016. And this is number of teachers that left and where they went. Okay. And then on this slide, we present just the top post-Stafford destinations. You can see that the majority of our teachers leave for employment in Prince William or Spotsylvania counties. So clearly, we are having difficulty attracting and retaining licensed staff. An important factor in attracting and retaining highly qualified staff is compensation. Given that we are losing the majority of our teachers to Prince William and Spotsylvania counties, how do our teacher salaries compare with theirs? On this next slide, years of teaching experience is plotted along the horizontal axis, and base teacher salary is along the vertical axis. I don't know how well you can see the colors, but the top line is red, and it's Prince William County. The green line is the average of Prince William and Spotsylvania counties. The blue line is Stafford County, and the black line is Spotsylvania County. If you look at this, you can see that our salaries are slightly above those in Spotsylvania for teachers with 12 years or less experience. For teachers with more than 12 years of experience, the salaries in Stafford are virtually identical to those in Spotsylvania. We are below Prince William County at all years of experience, but the salary gap increases substantially with increased years of experience. A teacher retiring with 30 years of experience will make $50,000 a year more in Prince William than in Stafford County. Unfortunately, this salary discrepancy is not limited to our teachers. Our bus drivers' salaries are actually below both Spotsylvania and Prince William counties. At 6.5 hours a day, 183 days a year, the annual salary for a beginning bus driver in Stafford would be just shy of $18,000. In Spotsylvania, bus drivers earn about $1,000 a year more, and in Prince William, they earn about $4,000 a year more. We recently received the results of a compensation study for all the employee categories that were not previously studied. So these include employee classifications such as administrative assistants, administrators, and bookkeepers. Of the 749 employees analyzed, 44.2% have salaries below the minimum of the market, okay? So 44.2%, so that's gonna be probably about 350 are below the minimum of the market. Okay, let's move on to looking at changing demographic and student needs in the county. The demographics and needs of our student population has been changing over the past 5 years. We are beginning to look a lot more like Northern Virginia. And we need to provide resources and training to address these changes. Our student population is becoming more diverse. While 5 years ago, the majority of our students were white, that is no longer the case. We now have a majority-minority student population. With greater student diversity sometimes comes cultural and behavioral differences. Ideally, our staff should look like our students, but without that, our staff needs to be trained to better understand cultural influences that might be affecting student behavior. Okay. The percentage of students identified as English language learners in Stafford has increased from 5.5% to 9% of the total student enrollment. This is a 60% increase in the English learner population in Stafford County Public Schools. And it should be noted that this group is not restricted to Spanish speakers. The top 5 languages are Spanish, Arabic, Dari, Urdu, and Twi. There are 85 languages represented across the division. So our English language teachers are having to scramble to work with some of these languages. Okay. We also see an increase in economically disadvantaged students. In 2015, a little over 30% of our students were considered economically disadvantaged. The number has increased by 5% to just under 36% of our student body. Finally, the number and percentage of students with learning and/or physical disabilities has increased. 5 years ago, about 9% of our students were identified as having disabilities. Now just over 12% of our students fall into this category. Right. So the primary way we are trying to address these demographic changes in the requested budget is with additional staff, specifically counselors, diagnosticians, English as a second language teachers, special education teachers, and paraprofessionals. But I hope that this budget presentation is part of an ongoing conversation between our two boards. In future budgets, we may need to look at even more counselors, additional school social workers, and applied behavioral specialists to meet the needs of these changing demographics. Okay. All right. This is also the first year of the Virginia Department of Education's new accreditation standards. Under the Every Child Succeeds Act, Virginia has adjusted requirements for schools to gain and maintain accreditation. One of the bright parts of this new act is that the system aims to reduce the number of standardized tests that our students take. Our students kind of get tested to death, so it's a good thing that we are doing a little bit less of that. And this is particularly the case at the high school. In addition, the new system looks at student growth as well as performance on the test. So if a student doesn't pass the test, but you can demonstrate that they've shown growth over the course of the year, the schools will get some credit for that. However, these changes are requiring additional training for staff. While we must routinely provide training for teachers new to Stafford County, these new accreditation standards require additional training for all of our administrators and teachers. Right. And then during the most recent legislative session in Richmond, the Virginia Standards of Quality were changed to increase the minimum number of counselors required per student. This is a welcome change. As I noted earlier, as Stafford's student demographic makeup changes, counselors can provide much needed support for students, teachers, and their families. All right, let's look at the specifics of the school board's proposed budget for the fiscal year of 2020. We are requesting funds for a number of new positions. Additional staff are needed to address growth in our enrollment, as well as addressing learning gaps and learning opportunities for our students. We need additional school counselors to meet new state requirements. It should be noted that mental health staff are critical to address school safety concerns and demographic changes in our student population. We need additional staff to meet the needs of children with disabilities. We have 3 support positions needed for the opening of the North Star Early Childhood Education Center. There are 2 additional positions requested to support an increased contribution to central purchasing. And finally, there's a need for about 8 additional support positions. Much of this presentation has focused on the need for staff compensation, development, and retention. To address these issues, we are proposing a 5% salary increase for all employees. It is noteworthy that Prince William County Schools has asked for a 4.7% increase, and Spotsylvania is asking for a 5%. Of course, we don't know what their final appropriation is going to be. But I will note that should they pass 4.7 or 5%, we're going to need to be 5% just to stay exactly where we are currently. I noted that we recently received a market compensation study of 749 employees. To get all the employees who are currently below the minimum of the market onto the market will cost $1.2 million. We are asking for $500,000 as a first step to bringing these employees onto the market. We are proposing an increase in stipends to compensate teachers who perform additional work outside of their normal duties. And the Virginia High School Sports League has added robotics to their league, and we would like to fund a stipend for high school robotics coaches. We also want to expand students' stipends for the mentored teacher program. With the high turnover that we're experiencing and the great number of very young teachers, they need to be mentored, and teachers who are providing that mentoring should be compensated for their time. We would also like to provide an additional 1% salary increase for teachers with 13-plus years of experience. This proposed increase is targeted at improving retention of experienced teachers. We want to adjust the nurse scale to be equivalent to the teacher's salary scale. And finally, we would like to adjust the middle school assistant principal contracts from 10 months to 12 months. We believe all building administrators should be 12-month employees to help improve instruction and parent involvement. Okay. All right, we have made a couple of reductions to our own budget. We expect to see some savings from staff retirements. Teachers retiring at the top of the salary scale will be replaced with younger, less expensive staff. We have also adjusted our contributions to the health insurance savings account downward. These adjustments should result in around $2 million in savings. This year, we budgeted $1.25 million for salary lapse. For next year, we plan to budget an additional $1.25 million for salary lapse, for a total of $2.5 million for salary lapse. We also expect some additional reductions in the budget as a result of redirected staffing. So what are the school board's budget revenue assumptions? We are expecting an increase in enrollment of 417 students. This is a 1.4% increase in average daily membership. Based on the most current information on the state budget, we are assuming an increase in state funds of about $9 million, which is a 5.7% increase over last year. We are assuming an increase in funds from the federal government of $115,000. That's a 5.64% increase. And finally, we assume an increase in our miscellaneous revenue of about $200,000, which is a 7.6% increase. Let's look a little further into these revenue assumptions, and specifically state revenue. Our budget is assuming 75 more students than the state ADM. I would note last year that we were only off by 3 students, so we're feeling pretty good about our average daily membership projections. We are assuming that the proposed supplement to compensation that was in the governor's budget and then got renegotiated for SOQ positions will occur. And then the current state budget has changed the staffing formula for the SOQ for school counselors, and therefore should include approximately 65% of the funds needed for the additional counselors. In other happy news, our head of student services, Wendy Johnson, and our new superintendent, Dr. Kisner, have been working with the state and the city of Fredericksburg to qualify for regional special education funding. These additional funds will be tied to services for special education students. Other revenue is expected to come from rebates resulting from the use of purchase cards, and these funds will be used for the purchasing and procurement initiative. So, from the county, we are requesting an increase of $8.7 million, or 7.2%. There is a deficit of $5.2 million between the school board's request and the county administrator's proposed budget. So, just to summarize, our total proposed expenditure for FY20 would be about $308 million, which is an increase of $18.3 million, or 6.3% over FY19. This would be an increase in county funding of $8.7 million, or 7.2%. Okay. And as I noted at the start of this presentation, the success of Stafford County Public Schools is the result of the partnership between our two boards. I know all of you care deeply about the children of Stafford County, but we also know that you have some difficult decisions to make on how to distribute the county's limited resources as responsibly and efficiently as possible. So we thank you for those efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. Very good presentation. To the point and within the time limit. I love that. At this time, the two boards are going to go upstairs to our ABC conference room to have a joint work session. And let me just read this so everybody hears the same thing. Due to space limitations and fire code requirements during the joint school board meeting, we have arranged for the meeting to be live streamed into the board chambers, this room. We request members of the community remain in the board chambers for the 5 p.m. joint meeting. Keep in mind, there is no public comment period during the joint meeting. You will have an opportunity to address the Board of Supervisors during the public comment period at the beginning of the 7 o'clock meeting this evening. With that said, we'll recess to ABC. Session of the Board of Supervisors meetings. If you are standing along the wall, you need to get a seat. There are about a half a dozen seats left. The fire marshal has asked me to instruct you that if you do not have a seat, you need to go upstairs to ABC, where this will be live streamed. And if you want to speak, you can come back downstairs. But he's pretty strict about that, so if you could take a seat, there's a couple seats. There's a seat up here up front. There's one over here on the third row. ABC is, we just left there, very comfortable room. And keep in mind, if you go to ABC, you can still come back down and speak if you got a speaker card, or even if you speak at the end. It's not a problem at all. At this time, I would like to ask everyone to stand for the invocation to be given by Mr. Cohen and Pledge of Allegiance.
We have a word on that standing thing, folks. Lord, we thank you for our many blessings, for family, friends, for being in a country where people are free and have a voice in decision-making. Be with our fire, our emergency services, our police, as they work to make us safe. Be with our men and women in the military and their families as they protect us and comfort them when they are in harm's way. Be with those throughout our nation who work with young people to make them a better in their personality and in their being. Lord, we ask that you be with those who are ill, those who are injured, and those who are facing major health challenges. Heal them and lift their spirits, as that will help them and help them get better. Lord, there is so much hatred and cruelty in the world. May we strive to be better individuals and lift up others and ourselves at the same time. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, as you can see, we've got a full house, and that's great. So everybody that wants to speak, everybody that has a desire to speak will get an opportunity to speak. However, it could be a long night, which we have no problem with at all. We ate our Wheaties this morning. But what I would ask when you come to the podium is that you state your name and your address. Once you do that, the green light will come on, and that begins your 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on, you've got about a minute left. When the red light comes on, you need to stop. And I will strictly enforce that rule tonight because we've got so many people speaking. Also, I would ask that you not use any personal comments towards anybody. Let's keep it all above board, and I know you will. You always do. I've got about 20 speaker cards, and then after the speaker cards, I'll go to the general audience for anybody else to speak. So the first speaker card is Craig Harper, and he's not speaking on the budget, so. Oh, and I also want to tell you, I hope this is not the public hearing on the budget. We're going to have another public hearing. This is just comment time, but public hearing on the budget, Mr. Foley, is when? The 22nd? Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Harper.
Hi there, I'm Craig Harper, 2807 Jefferson Davis Highway. Thank you for hearing me. I'm here to, friends, I'm here to advocate for
Computer, please.
2807 Jefferson Davis Highway as a public building in Stafford. The building is a Frank Lloyd Wright style, was a gas station. Now it's vacant. We have lots of uses for it and lots of interest in the building, but we feel it ought to be a public facility. It's been in hundreds of newspapers, including the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. It's in a book called Falling Water Rising. It's received many awards. We think it has, that's the Wall Street Journal article. We think should be the link between the classic architecture at Quiet Church and the Moncure House and the new modern architecture that you're building near the courthouse. Each canopy area could be like a photo gallery, an exhibit of Stafford County art, culture, what have you. The upstairs could be a library, could be educational facility. To the rear of the building could put up a gazebo and do outdoor concerts, lectures, etc. There are as many possible uses for this building as you can imagine. Now, we think the county should lease this building from us, and if it doesn't work out, we'll turn it into a commercial facility. But we think you have enough commercial stuff up there that it's time for a public facility. And we like your support. It can be a history center, a cultural center. All of the paintings or old photographs that you have can be exhibited there. You could have a welcome center there. You could have a gift shop. You could have what's going on in Stafford. And that's your northern, that's the first thing you see when you get off at 143A. So you're right out there. People reading these books and seeing these articles will say, what's going on in Stafford? And we'd like to do something nice up there. And it doesn't take much.
Mr. Harper, I'm afraid you're out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call out 3 speaker cards, and if the 3 of you would line up in the order that I call. Colleen Wieners. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Dewey Reynolds. And Beth? That's it, thank you. Don't know why I couldn't get that.
Good evening. My name is Colleen Wieners, and I live at 6 Torrey Court, Stafford 22554. For quite some time, the administrative assistants have been fighting tirelessly to be brought to a fair market pay basis. We've seen our building maintenance and CTE staff, along with paraprofessionals and school bus drivers, be evaluated and placed on a higher pay scale, yet we continue to be placed on the back burner for unknown reasons. Many of us fall at least 20% below minimum of the market scale, while others fall 40% below. Human Resources has not given work credit to most incoming administrative assistants for the past 7 years. They entered at step 0 and remain there. When the students in your school earn more at a part-time job than you do per hour, it is particularly disheartening, but it's true. One of our students at Colonial Forge earns $15 per hour, and that is indeed more than the $12.42 hourly wage of one of our full-time 12-month administrative assistants. Without spousal support, we effectively could not afford to keep these jobs. The one single employee we have rents a basement apartment from a friend. That's the best she can do and still live near her job. I'm trying to understand the school board compensation philosophy, and I do urge you to do that as well. Their stated goal that we have heard for the past 4 years was to get all groups to the minimum of the market and then continue moving toward market median. Shouldn't the priority be to fund the employee groups still not at minimum of the market first, and then address the collective percentage for all groups? At present, the budget only allocates $500,000 as a phase-in approach. I think after 4 years of waiting and 7 years of no experience credit, this budget must contain the $1.2 million to fully fund the market minimum salaries as the first priority. Unless this group is brought to at least market minimum prior to any general employee compensation, we've lost another year in the fight. Let this budget be the year that all employee groups are included in the market salaries. To me, that is a compensation philosophy worth supporting. Stafford County Public Schools is getting a very good bang for its buck, and now it's time for the tables to turn. We all need a living wage and one that makes us feel valued here. We've stayed year after year waiting for the promises to come true because we love what we do and who we do it for. Please show us in our bank accounts that what we do and what experience we bring and the work ethic we provide is valued. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dewey Reynolds, 12 Pickering Road. I'm a veteran of the school system for 26 years. Worked at Virginia schools for 29 years. And I sincerely love my job. And tonight I was asked, is generally requested to tell our story. Rather than tell my story, I'm going to tell you a different story. Man had a garden. It was a beautiful garden. He grew this beautiful yellow rose. He took a picture of it and took it to a tattoo artist. And he says, I want this rose tattooed on my back. So after a lot of pain, a couple hours later, he looks in the mirror. And on his back's a dandelion. And he asked the tattoo artist, he said, you know, I wanted this rose. And you gave me this dandelion. And the man says, well, it's still a flower. He says, you know, if you squint hard enough, it looks good enough from here. This is good enough. And he said, no, I wanted this rose. This rose is what I deserve. This dandelion is what you're giving me. When we fail our school system, we fail our children. It is time for us to not stand back and say, well, if we squint, it's looking good enough. Good enough, just slightly above average, in a county that deserves better, equates to failure. It's time that we change our philosophy. It's time for us to understand that quality is worth $1.04 and not $1.03. $1.04 can help get the rose. $1.03 is going to leave us with dandelions again. And there are a lot of people and a lot of gardens out there that are growing roses, and people are leaving for those gardens because they're tired of seeing dandelions. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you start, let me call three more speakers if you'd come up, and I know I'm going to butcher this one. Last name is Lansford. And then Terry Wellborn. And then Melanie Keesaw. You got to let me know how I did on that one. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
All right, Beth Carafile, 2324 Drake Lane, 22408. Good evening, Board of Supervisors, school board members, Dr. Kisner, colleagues, and friends. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Beth Carafile. I live in Spotsylvania County, and I'm the German teacher at Stafford High School and have been there since 2013. One thing that all teachers do is try to inspire their students. Tonight, my goal is to inspire you to approve the school board's budget recommendation, which includes a 5% raise for all SCPS employees. One part of inspiring my students includes teaching them to understand that taking the easy way out is not necessarily the right decision in the long run. In other contents, taking the easy way out might be reading Cliff's Notes, adding programs to a graphing calculator, or even writing important dates on your hand before a test. In my content, taking the easy way out is using Google Translate. I try to explain to my students that using Google Translate offers no long-term benefits because it doesn't require them to think critically or recall and apply the concepts and structures that we're working on. If my students don't put in the hard work themselves, they don't progress, they don't grow, they don't improve. It's very clear to understand with this example that taking the easy way out does not provide the same long-term benefits of actually doing the work. How does this relate to your task in regards to the budget? The easy decision is to approve the county's budget recommendation, which does not fully fund the 5% raise for all SCPS employees. Yes, it's true that approving the school board's budget recommendation will require additional work from you, possibly even hard work. It might not be easy to reallocate funds or to find additional sources of funding in order to fully fund the school board's proposed budget. But just like when my students do the hard work themselves, instead of taking the easy way out, the long-term benefits are astounding. You will hear so many teachers and SCPS employees share the reasons how a 5% raise will change their lives for the better. It will also change the county for the better by retaining the passionate teachers and employees who are already here, and perhaps also by drawing qualified candidates to not just join us, but to stay with us and keep our division strong for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, if you've already decided not to approve the school board's budget proposal because you think that that's truly the right decision, I don't know that my comments tonight will change your mind. But if you're leaning towards not approving it simply because that's the easy decision and doesn't require you to do some hard work, I hope my comments tonight help you understand that by being willing to put in the work to approve the school board's budget request, you will help Stafford County Public Schools progress. You will help Stafford County Public Schools grow. You will help Stafford County Public Schools improve. You will help Stafford County Public Schools and teachers and students stop stagnating and help us start to flourish. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you're willing to do the work.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lynn Lansford, and I live at 75 Ironwood Road in Stafford County. I've taught in the system for 19 years now. I started teaching back in the 90s and stayed home with my children for a couple of years and then came back. So I've seen the change between the past and the present. The cost of living in Stafford County has increased over the years, and our salaries have barely increased. When I started teaching in Stafford County, it used to be the place where everyone wanted to be. The morale was high, the salary was competitive, and we all felt appreciated. Things have changed over the years. Presently, in my world language department, 7 of the 9 members hold second jobs throughout the year to subsidize their salary in order to support their families. We have one teacher who is married to another Stafford County teacher, and they have 2 children. The cost of child care for 2 children is the same as their mortgage payment each month. uses up one of their salaries, and it is the higher salary that it uses. Think about families like mine who have 5 children who have all grown up in the Stafford County school system. The financial stress is tremendous. Years ago, I could look forward to healthy step raises to keep up with the cost of living, and that hasn't happened recently. I teach because I love teaching. I chose this profession because I enjoy the kids. I enjoy teaching them to be forever learners. I teach them Spanish. I like to hear them speak. I like to hear them get excited about their language. I like to have them enjoying class, enjoying learning. What I don't think is fair about a teacher's job, it's not the 60 or 70 hours that we all put in every single week above the 7 to 3 that were mandated to be there. I chose it because I like this job. Often my husband says, wish I had a job like yours. You enjoyed your job. You love your job. You get up every morning and you're ready to go. But what I feel the county is doing is they're being contradictory. You're asking us to teach C5W, all sensory skills, to our students. These include communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, citizenship, and wellness. You also ask us to use these skills with our peers in our teaching profession. Having to work 2 jobs to make ends meet is exhausting. I'm pretty sure if you polled the teachers, you would see that many of us are doing the same thing, working a second job to subsidize our paycheck from the county. My question is, where's the concern for the wellness of your teachers? Our wellness is important so that we can give our best to educate our students. That's why we teach. We're here for our children.
Thank you.
Terry Wellborn, 131 Enon Road. I'm in the Falmouth District. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Chairman Snellings. I'm Terry Wellborn, and I'm the SEA ESP Transportation Caucus Chairperson, your bus drivers and monitors, and fleet services. I stand before you hoping you will help stop the mass exodus of employees that has happened at the end of the school year for the last few years. If Stafford does not commit to paying bus drivers, monitors, and all school staff a living wage, we will continue to lose employees to Spotsylvania and Prince William counties. We cannot continue to operate below staffing levels. A good start to that is a 5% increase across the board for all employees. Past few years with using the median market pay scale has not worked. While it raised the starting pay, veteran drivers and monitors received very little pay increases. The inequity in pay increases has been detrimental to the morale of our department. The only fair solution is to give a 5% pay increase across the board. This includes bus drivers, monitors, teachers, all employees, including administrators. Stafford County Public Schools cannot operate properly without all departments being fully staffed and properly compensated for the work they do. Bus drivers and monitors increasingly have to deal with medical issues and behavior issues that we are being constantly trained for. The next school year will start on August 12th with possible 100-degree temps for days on end. Many of our employees cannot afford to live in Stafford. Did you know that the average starting pay for a bus driver with the Class B CDL is only $17,854? I believe that is lower than your stipend for being on this board. Stafford County is one of the wealthiest counties in the U.S. Its employees should be able to afford to live here. Fully funding Dr. Kisner's budget, which includes the 5% increase, will help bring the school division closer to a living wage for our bus drivers and monitors. So what will the fate of Stafford schools be? What will the fate of Stafford students be? Will you stand with your employees and give a 5% increase, no ifs, ands, or buts, or will we see a mass exodus at the end of this school year as in the past few years? Will you too continue to make excuses and say, we value you and we gave your school board money for raises, but thank you. Okay.
Before we start, I'm going to call 3 more names: Teresa Gaddy, Carla Jordan, and Heather Eland. Come on down. Please, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Melanie Starr Keesaw, and I live at 64 Setter Circle in Fredericksburg. The zip is 22406. I wanted to come and speak to you as from the perspective of a parent and as an educator. My family and I moved here in July of 2007, and I was thrilled to pieces. Loved the school where I was hired. Great job. Great place for my kids. My son started out in elementary school with us here, and then he was one child that I've had in an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. Both my children graduated from Mountain View High School. And it was great. As a parent, I knew that my children were taken care of. Everyone built relationships with the kids. Everyone from the bus drivers to security. It was a great experience as far as having a child in the system. But as a parent who, life changes, things happen. In 2009, when I became the sole supporter of my family, and then I had to figure out what I was needed. I'm sorry. I'm trying to stay positive here. I had to make decisions and figure out what my kids had to do without so that I could still do my job and about 3 to 4 other jobs to pick up the slack as far as financial means. I've lost track of the number of extra jobs that I've had. I love my jobs. I love all of them. I enjoy speaking with parents and students and helping kids find the right paths and talking with them, helping them make decisions and make their educational decisions. But it has taken a toll on my personal family. Both of my kids have now gone on. They both live here in Stafford. At the end of this year, I'm not sure that I will. It's time to make some good decisions. I look at friends who have gone on to other places. And the department that I started with at one high school, there are only 2 people in that department still from 2007 when I was hired, that were there when I was hired. I know that you've got a lot of decisions to make. Please understand, I think it's past time to take corrective action. Please, please consider fully funding the budget that the school system is asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Teresa Gaddy. I live at 15 Johnson Mill Ridge, Fredericksburg, Virginia 22406, Hartwood District. So my friend Star is the type of teacher who she is now, but we've lost a lot of people who could have been her, who stuck around. So in 2003, I left teaching in Fairfax County and took a $10,000 pay cut because we wanted to build a home here, and we have been here for the past 15 years, raised 4 kids in the school system. I have taught in 3 different schools in the county, love them all. As a 23-year vet, I have mentored many teachers, developed curriculum. I have been a cooperating teacher. So giving of myself to help the younger generation has always been something that I've done. I also have had to work 3 additional jobs. I score ACT essays, SAT essays, I score IB exams, and I worked summer school. So this has taken time away from me and my family as well. But, I started having the philosophy that teaching isn't a full-time job. It's 75% of my career, and I have to supplement the other 25% when my school district doesn't do it. I've tried to be solution-oriented, and so it's nice to hear the conversation about moving forward and compensating us, because I might actually be able to be a regular person with a regular full-time job instead of multiple jobs again. So Dr. Chase talked about the IB program, and she's absolutely right. I'm the IB coordinator at Mountain View High School, and the training that teachers get make them those types of mentors that guide other teachers. They improve overall instruction. I could list 10 IB teachers who have left in the past 3 years from Mountain View High School. These are the people who designed C5W. These are the people who ran the summit. So our younger teachers are missing out on that mentorship, Our younger teachers are missing out on the type of person I normally am and saying, yeah, this is a great place to work and we're going to do good things. I have to tell them, yeah, if you got to go to Prince William, you need to go. I don't want to leave. The new teacher within 5 years doesn't want to leave. The teacher with a newborn at home doesn't want to leave, but one of them has to because somebody has to make money. And I don't want to go. But even if I take 15 years in Prince William, I'll still make $5,000 than I do now with 23 in Stafford. So I know you guys support this raise, so I'm appreciative of that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carla Jordan, 839 Garrisonville Road. Fully funded public schools outperform those that are underfunded. Public school performance has been determined to be directly correlated with housing prices, economic indicators, tax revenue, poverty, and crime rates, according to numerous studies. Don't just take my word for it, though. Read the data. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, there is a definite correlation between school expenditures and home values in any given neighborhood. For every $1 spent on public schools in a community, home values increase $20, indicating that additional school expenditures may benefit everyone in the community, whether or not those residents actually have children in the local public school system. Increased home values also lead to increased tax revenue. Further indicated by the National Bureau of Economic Research, a 20% increase in per pupil spending leads to an additional year of completed education, 25% higher earnings, and a 20 percentage point reduction in the incidence of poverty in adulthood. Local economies flourish when there are more skilled and productive workers. Low poverty rates and high educational attainment improve local economies. A look at the financial return for areas that invest in improving the quality of K-12 education finds that this payoff can be significant. Also, from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, children who attend better funded schools are more likely to complete high school, have higher earnings and lower poverty rates in adulthood. Higher education and lower poverty rates contribute to a lower crime rate. Unfortunately, multiple studies have also determined that Virginia ranks next to last in the nation when it comes to providing teachers with a competitive wage when viewing teacher compensation versus professions with similar educational requirements. Low teacher salaries contribute to high teacher turnover. High teacher turnover contributes to low-performing schools. Perhaps most unsettling, according to the American Community Survey's new 5-year estimate that was published in 2017, Stafford, Virginia ranks as the 18th wealthiest county in the United States of America, according to median household income. Prince William ranks 19th on this same list. How is it possible that Stafford County is comprised of more wealth than Prince William County, yet funds schools and pays teachers to a lesser standard? These statistics speak for themselves, and the choice is yours now. Do you want increased poverty and crime rates with a diminished economy in Stafford, Virginia? Choosing not to fully fund the public schools would be a step in that direction, and the negative impacts would be far-reaching. Or would you rather have increased home values and tax revenue, highly educated workforce, and improved economy with positive growth? A vote to fully fund the public schools would get you moving in that direction. Thank you.
I'm going to call 3 more speakers. Michelle Wickman, Holly McKelvey, and help me out. Last name is spelled S-I-K-O-R-A. Sikora? I won't even attempt the first name. I can't read it. Ms. Sikora. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Heather Elin. I live at 54 Cardinal Forest Drive in the Hartwood District. I am a product of Stafford County Public Schools, and I've been an educator here for 17 years. Additionally, I'm a parent of future graduates of the classes of 2033 and 2035. I have a lot riding on the quality of our schools, as do all of the other parents here in Stafford County. I'm speaking tonight in favor of the Stafford County Schools budget, and I'm asking you to please advertise a tax rate of $1.04. I want to paint a visual image for you for a moment. When you walk into Walmart and you meet that enthusiastic greeter, their energy is contagious. When someone holds a door open for you or shows you kindness in some other way, you're more likely to spread that kindness as well. Unfortunately, negativity spreads the same way. Currently, there is a sense of uncertainty, a lack of faith and disappointment among the staff in our schools. People are questioning the pay scales, as did I. And sadly, I found that my pay is actually less than a teacher with my experience was paid 12 years ago. $673 less per year at face value. As you dig deeper and realize that we're compensated differently and how VRS is paid, the difference is actually closer to $3,500 less than a teacher with 16 years experience made 12 years ago. But tonight, you have the opportunity to spark a glimmer of hope for the staff in Stafford County Public Schools. When you support the school's budget, which includes 5% increase across the board and an additional 1% for those of us that have been here for 12 or more years, you give Stafford County Schools employees hope and begin to restore our faith that our boards can work for the good of our schools. The 5% increase will help retain teachers and staff who have spent many years devoted to this county and that Stafford has in return invested in them through professional development, resulting in stronger schools. The pay increase will help staff feel more secure about how they are going to pay for their bills and put food on their table, reducing their need for part-time jobs, which will increase their energy and the passion that they have to give to our students, resulting in stronger schools. This budget may allow staff to begin or increase their contributions to retirement savings to help secure their future, increasing their positive outlook about their future, and increasing their drive and dedication to this county, resulting in stronger schools. This is just the beginning. We are looking forward to a bright future for Stafford County Schools. Our staff, my children, and all children deserve the fullest support of our schools. The school board's budget is a step in the right direction. Please support the $4 tax rate. Thank you.
Members of the board, my name is Michelle Wickman, and I live at 305 Bentley Court in Hampton Oaks. And I'm just going to come out right off the bat because I always go over my time, and I was going to say this last, but I'm going to say it first. I will pay $4 in taxes as a property owner in this county, and I will pay more than that if that's what it takes. As an educator, I'm incredibly proud of the advocacy campaign that we have demonstrated this year. Through our liaison program, SEA has maintained relationships with the superintendent, the school board, and the board of supervisors. We've kept the lines of communication open and our goals transparent. And communication is a two-way street, so thank you guys for working with us on that. Last month, educators in red filled the school board chambers to share their personal stories of hardship and ask for a budget that truly supports the staff and students of SCPS. And we're standing here tonight asking you to fund that support. After years of a frozen pay scale and more years spent giving inequitable raises, we're asking for a 5% salary increase across the board. This will help entice new employees to the county, which is an important focus given that we lost over 400 educators last year. After years of increasing class sizes, we're asking you to support new positions so that our students don't get lost in the crowd and their teachers don't burn out. We're asking you to help our paraprofessionals, bus drivers, and admin assistants who are all grossly underpaid. Our per-pupil expenditures in Stafford are over $1,600 below the state average, which ranks us at 95th out of 133 school divisions in Virginia. In a county that has a median income of over $97,000, we can do better than this. My children love their schools, and they love their teachers, and so do I, but I hate knowing that they would have a better learning experience if their classrooms weren't overcrowded. I hate knowing their teachers are overly stressed with too much work to do and not enough compensation for that work. I hate knowing that they might be taught by long-term substitutes if we cannot entice teachers to this county to fill those empty positions. I want them to have better student-to-counselor ratios in their schools, and I don't want them riding the bus for an excessively long time or sitting 3 to a seat because we don't have enough drivers to spread out the routes. We can do better than this. I know that you guys aren't in charge of the line items in the school budget, but we already talked to the people who are, and they heard us. And you are in charge of funding those line items. And so if the budget is not fully funded, then they have to make hard decisions to take some of those away, and that hurts our students, and it hurts our educators. Stafford County used to be a competitive division, one where educators wanted to be and experienced educators wanted to stay. And we've lost that competitive edge. We're losing more educators every year to nearby divisions. We must do better than this. Like I said before, as a property owner in Stafford County, I am willing to pay $1.04 in taxes and more than that if that's what it takes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Holly McKelvey, 118 Green Bank, 22406. I'm one of those statistics. I was an abused wife, and I left that marriage as a single mom and went back to college on the welfare program and graduated. And thanks to Mr. Carter, who hired me via phone interview for a school at a private school in Virginia, I moved to Virginia as a single mom. A year later, September 2015, I became an educator at Stafford County. I lived in a hotel room until this past November. As a single mom, I could not get an apartment in this state because most of your rental places are ran by companies, and they want first month, last month, and security deposit. I couldn't do that. I was a single mom of 3 boys. I couldn't do it. So I lived in a hotel because there I knew I was provided electricity, and I was given a refrigerator and a roof over my head, and I could afford it with all the other bills that I had to pay. Last year I got married, and it took me and my husband a year to move out of a hotel room. As an educator with a master's degree, I lived in a hotel room. I can relate to some of the students that I see in my building at Stafford Middle, because I know some of those same students have lived in hotel rooms, and I could relate to them because I was there. And I share my personal experiences and my stories with my students because I was a statistic. I wasn't supposed to be able to make it. And here I am as an educator in Stafford County. I came forward because my son, who is 20 years old and is in the Navy, in another year will make more money than I do as a second-year Navy enlisted young man. He made great decisions, and I'm glad that I had that power to do that for him. We are asking you to please give us this 5% raise, because as a single mom, I know how hard it was for me to survive and decide whether or not I was even going to eat at work that day, because my kids came first. My students come first. I had a kid today at school tell me, I don't have lunch money, Miss. I don't have lunch money. I went to my desk and I got my can of soup that I had on my desk for my emergency stash so that I had a student that could eat in my building today. It shouldn't be like that. So I'm please asking you and imploring you to help the new teachers and the single moms so that we can make it, because we don't have to be a failing statistic in Stafford County. Thank you.
One minute. Next 3 speaker cards are Jen O'Brien, Rebecca Musso, and Julie Parham. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Elise Sikora, and I live at 11 Kinross. I'm a 20-year veteran teacher, 15 of which have been here in Stafford County. All of those 20 years have been in a high-need area of either secondary math or special education. I have a master's degree plus the 20 years, and I don't make $60,000. I'm fortunate that my husband does work for the government and gets his yearly step increase or cost of living, or I could not live here with my 2 children. I'm here to ask the board to fully fund the school board's recommended budget. As a teacher with my experience, I would like to make a statement about priorities, which I heard used in the discussion earlier. I make my students' education the priority. Fully funding the budget will show the community that the elected board members prioritize its constituents' children, the future of Stafford County, and everyone and everything involved in making that happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jen Robinson O'Brien, and I reside at 201 Crossing Road, 22406. Thank you very much for letting me speak this evening. I wear many hats in Stafford County. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a veteran teacher of Stafford County schools, working at the world's greatest high school, North Stafford High School. My most important hat, though, is mom of 14-year-old Emma, who attends Rodney Thompson Elementary. Tonight, I'm talking as her mom. I've been very active in my daughter's education, and when speaking with her, she cannot remember a time when her classes have not been crowded. Her third grade teacher apologized to me, for her third grade class was so overcrowded that my daughter, a bright, vivacious child, slipped through the cracks. There was one of her and too many students. Her fourth grade class had over 30 students. Many of them were special education students. Again, the teacher did the best she could. Middle school hasn't changed very much. She's in Miss Sakura's algebra class. 30 eighth grade students in a high school level class. But now I also notice just how many first year teachers she has. These teachers bring passion, they bring energy, and they bring inexperience. I find myself helping her at home because I am not a new teacher. There's nothing wrong with these teachers. They're wonderful. They're just new. As a teacher at North, I tease my friends. They can't leave for the next 4 years. For as a mom, I want the best for my daughter. I need the best for my daughter. She wants to get her music degree. She wants to become a music therapist or a music teacher. And yet, while North Stafford's turnover isn't as drastic as some, about only 25, which is a fifth of the staff, a year, there are only a handful that have been there longer than I have at 20. How can I encourage my peers to stay in the county when they can't afford to pay rent unless they're living with other people? How can I encourage my peers to stay when it's been my experience that salary is not set in this county? How can I encourage these teachers to stay and start their life when it is not fiscally feasible? I want the best for my daughter. She is the center of my life, and I want to offer her every opportunity possible. And I know in my sinking heart, she will not get that. Stafford County teachers squeeze blood from the stone. That's a fact. My daughter's smart and will work hard. That's a fact. Her teachers will do best. That's a fact. But those facts cannot counter overcrowded classrooms. They cannot counter inexperience. They cannot counter a lapse in programs due to staff turnover. 58 positions are currently open right now in March. Funding the budget will make strides towards addressing these factors. We need a tax rate of $1.04 in order to make this happen. I can't put a price on my daughter's education, and you can't put a price on my students' education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rebecca Musso, and I'm at 55 Iron Master Drive in Stafford 22554. I stand before you as a parent of a rising kindergartner and a rising sixth grader. I'm also here as a teacher to over 190 students who come in and out of my classroom throughout the week, and to the over 1,800 students that I've taught in Stafford County over the past 10 years. I can't speak for all educators, but I can say that all educators I know will forever refer to any student in their classroom as my kid. I can also say that all educators I know are passionate and compassionate. We're passionate about making the world a better place by educating and guiding our future adults. We are passionate about our content, which is what we use as a tool to make the world a better place by educating our future adults. And we are compassionate because we know the value of looking a child in the eye and asking them about their sporting event or their music concert or the smile on their face when you tell them that you're proud of them. You cannot put a price tag on the moment a child cries in your arms because they're struggling with something in their lives and they trust you enough to tell you because they know you will do something. 5% is a great step towards treating educators as professionals and helping to support Stafford County Public Schools' goals of retaining quality teachers. Teacher retention is not just linked to monetary compensation, but also working conditions. With 34 to 35 students in a middle school classroom, I am unable to adequately meet the needs of my students both academically and emotionally. With that number of students in one classroom, the number of opportunities afforded for, I teach science, for labs and enrichment activities is greatly reduced because I don't have physical space to provide the experiences that will solidify the learning and synthesize all of the content and the things that we've been doing in our classroom. In fact, class size is also creating additional discipline problems, which is taking away from our time to teach our kids. It's decreasing teacher morale, and it's also increasing the number of teachers who are leaving because it's just too much. And unfortunately, it's taking away from the education of all the other children in there. As reported previously, our population is increasing and continuing to become more diverse. We need funding for our educators and our schools. It's not okay to have 58 vacancies. It's not okay to have class sizes of 34 and 35.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the next three speakers. Christina Peabody. I'm sorry, Christian? I apologize. Okay. Matthew Lentz. I've done pretty well tonight, folks. You know, I mess up one. And Rachel Paddock.
Good evening, Board. My name is Julie Parham. I live at 415 Decatur Road in the Griffiths Widewater District, and I work at Hampton Oaks Elementary School, where I'm completing my 38th year of public school teaching. As you can imagine, things have changed considerably over the past almost 40 years, but a few things haven't changed. Our schools and their employees are still subject to the will of our politicians. We still have to come to these meetings to justify our worth. We still have to beg to be paid a living wage. But despite this, I go to my school every day in absolute awe of the dedicated professional educators who teach, transport, feed, and love our community's children. They are here despite our inadequate compensation, and many of them are planning to leave because, yeah, it really is about the money. Tonight, I stand before you as a taxpayer, an employee, and a voter. I am asking you to set a tax rate that will fully fund the school budget. It is way past time that the children of Stafford County and the employees that educate them are a priority. I do understand that setting a higher tax rate is a difficult decision, but I would argue that it's not only warranted, but absolutely essential. Thank you for your time, your service, and your willingness to listen. I look forward to all of us working together to make a Stafford that we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Hey, Robbie. I didn't see you last night.
He was one of my default mentors when I was a student teacher. Okay. Dear members of the board, my name is Christian Peabody. I'm a music teacher at Falmouth Elementary, and I'm also the president of the Stafford Education Association. And I'm thrilled to be here tonight and now. Last year, when I was the vice president going into last year's budget considerations, I stated that this division was in a spiritual crisis. And the budget presentation given by Dr. Chase reflected that data after what happened last year. And I'm thrilled to be here because beginning at that time last year, the Stafford Education Association and the Board of Supervisors began a remarkable and dynamic partnership that Michelle Wickman just mentioned to address and triage the future outlook of our division. And it worked to an extent. And today, a year later, here we are again. You as well. Yep. And this time with across-the-board unity between this division's Professional Advocacy Association, the SEA, and our divisional leadership. And after nearly a year's worth of constant engagement, the division and its educators are here together to support a school budget and an advertised tax rate that realistically and proactively brings our students the funding that's in line with our comparative divisions and acknowledges Stafford County as a NOVA community. And tonight we are here again to re-engage with you in our partnership between not only just the two of us, but also with the Board of Supervisors, so we can move forward and move on together. We're not here anymore to finger point or to rehash the past, but to use this incredible collaboration to move on objectively. If we pay special attention to this budget, this one, and deliver this budget for our students, we'll have secured a new template of collaboration for our community, and we'll have set an example realistically and honestly for the entire Commonwealth to follow. And it'll be a statement saying that we know that these kids didn't ask to be here. We owe them the greatest shot at their future, and this is a statement that we as a community will not accept putting any limit on the life or a child of a child's education. And that journey begins with an advertisement of the $1.04 tax rate, so we have the greatest potential for having the discussions we need moving forward to uplift our division and all the rest of our community services. And a critical factor within that is for all of us to agree and to come together to make happen that a 5% compensation is secured and set aside, and that the genesis of this level of proactive engagement and hope, SEA's motto of 5% for all, is delivered, no ifs, ands, or buts. It is my profound honor to lead this tremendous organization, and it is this fresh spirit of pulling the stakeholders of this community together so we can do something that delivers immense hope for our community's future, and with all honesty, reverberates throughout Virginia. And it's going to continue to be the Stafford Education Association's honor to engage with the Board of Supervisors so that we can all deliver a budget that's worthy of our incredible students and our incredible educators. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. 405, George Washington District. I'm speaking to you tonight about our children, which is the main point of our Red for Ed movement, our Sea of Red. It's no secret that educators have left our county over the past few years. Some have even left the profession entirely due to the increasingly overwhelming responsibility that we have to burden as educators. We see this budget proposed by the Board of Education and Dr. Kisner as an excellent first step to retain our precious educators, and thank you for your thoughtful consideration. We, like you, want only what is best for Stafford County. In our opinion, as educators, what is best for our county, our future, is consistency in public education. Our future generation, our children, and our county need consistency if we are going to meet the future demands here in the county. This is about our children, and we have grown enormously over the past 10 years. I already have students asking me, a 22-year veteran teacher, if I will be at Colonial Forge next year. And this makes me very sad because it reveals how the past 10 years in underfunded public education has resulted in this insecurity of our students, where they don't have the consistency that they need. This, unfortunately, can lead to so many other problems I don't have time to go into in 3 minutes. But I want to point out that students love being able to see familiar faces year after year. Students perform best when they have a positive and safe environment that is conducive to learning. We at the SEA, with you and the school board, work together to offer our students the best public education we can offer. But we can't offer this without our quality educators. We can't offer this if people are miserable in their positions as a result of being overwhelmed and underpaid. We can't afford to keep losing our educators to our surrounding counties. Yes, we love what we do, but we also can't keep going on without some positive change. 5% may not be enough to retain some staff, but it is a very good start. And again, this is about our children. Thank you for listening to me tonight, but it's $1.04 or some are out the door. And this is what democracy looks like.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let me call other speakers up before you start. Darren Flynn, Mary Tolliver, Carol Medawar, and Casey Clark.
Good
Go ahead.
evening. Rachel O'Mara Paddock, 113 Basalt, Fredericksburg, in Stafford County. I just want to throw a couple numbers at you guys like everybody else has this evening. $8,000. That's the pay cut that I took when I came from Manassas to come to Stafford County, because Stafford County was where I wanted to teach. $10,000. That's the pay increase that Prince William County is now offering me next fall. $20,000. That is the pay increase that Fairfax County will offer me next fall. It is very hard as an educator to stay in Stafford County when I can't get the support that I need from my school board, from the Board of Supervisors, and from the county that say that Stafford County is the competitive place to teach. I love Stafford County. I moved here 10 years ago, and I absolutely love it. I love that my children love to be in school here, but I have 2020 and 2022, and they leave Colonial Forge, and I will be paying for college for them. And $20,000 extra a year sure could help foot that bill. So, that being said, I really hope, I know that you guys don't give us the pay raise. I understand that. But I do understand that you guys are the ones that give the school board the money to give us the pay raise. I understand that there are concerns that that money get allocated for the pay raise, as those concerns should be noted. But our educators in this county deserve this. I have a teacher that I work with. She's outstanding, 2-year teacher. She's absolutely amazing. She wants to start a family. She's going to leave Stafford County. She cannot afford to start a family in Stafford County. And that's sad, because our kids, I work at the best elementary school in Stafford County. Sorry, Hampton Oaks is #1. But she's gonna leave. And our kids at Hampton Oaks need her. They need me. We need to keep teachers that are really good, strong teachers here in Stafford County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mari Tolliver. I live at 304 Windsor Ridge Court in the Falmouth District. I teach Spanish at North Stafford High School, and I took this job 3 years ago after 23 years working for the State Department as a Foreign Service officer. I've seen firsthand what happens in countries that underinvest in public education, that have a citizenry who are unprepared to participate in the economy, who are unprepared to lead, who are unprepared to serve. I love this job. I plan to stay in it. I just wanted to offer 3 points from that perspective, and also as a longtime Stafford County resident, and I have all three of my children have attended schools in Stafford County. First, the level of compensation for teachers needs to be increased, and not only from the perspective of that we're competing with other counties for teachers, but that we're competing with the private sector and with the government. When I arrived at North Stafford, there were 2 vacant teaching positions out of 5. I took one. It took us 3 years to fill the other one, and a long-term sub that we had there, who was good, took a higher-paying job in the federal government. So that's something that has to be considered about the job market around here. The second point is for retention of talented teachers. It is important for them to receive a living wage as professionals. Had I attempted to do what I did as primary breadwinner for my family, my husband is a disabled vet, couldn't work for several years. I raised 3 children. We raised 3 children, but we would have been bankrupt had I been a teacher at that time instead of working for the federal government. So I really feel for the distress that many of my colleagues have on a financial and emotional level. And then the third point is classroom size. The American Conference of Teachers of Foreign Languages recommends that a foreign language class for younger students should be no greater than 15. I believe the Department of Defense and certainly the State Department, the class sizes are much smaller. So just to give a sort of an example, I teach Spanish too, so it's the same teacher, same level, same material. One class has 20 students, the other class has 28 students. My smaller class has an average course grade that is a full 10 points higher than the larger class. And I believe that much of this is explained by the fact that I have less attention to give to each individual student for their questions, for when they're stuck. And if you get 1 or 2 students with a behavior problem, that causes distractions and makes it harder for the others to learn. So class size is really essential. And I've been to several hotspots around the world, places where you have an unprepared citizenry. They're ugly and scary to live in. We're nowhere near that point, but we need to be careful. We need to preserve our democratic traditions. We need a workforce that is prepared. We need also people who are prepared to lead. When I see my students, I see those kids. I see the light that's in them. They have that potential. But without that increased investment, I think we have some risk that they won't get there. I think everybody in this room shares a vision for a stable, a prosperous, a democratic Stafford County. I think everybody in the room shares that vision and cares about this place. But in order to realize that vision, we need increased investment in public education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Carol Medawar, and I reside in the George Washington District. I'm here to speak on the tax rate. You have a duty to set a rate at an amount that can fully fund the school budget. If you do not do this, you must not blame anyone else, not the school board, not anyone else. You must accept responsibility as the fiscal agent to not just approve new construction, but to provide services to the families that move into those houses. Many people like to talk about a teacher shortage. I don't believe we have a shortage. There are plenty of educators just like me, certified to teach in high-demand areas like special education and mathematics. And during my 18 years of teaching in Stafford, I trained countless educators who've gone on to, as a previous speaker stated, a different garden where they're valued like roses and not treated like dandelions. Like me, literally hundreds have chosen to leave Stafford. What we have in this room is a growing trend of educators who have found their voice and are advocating for their working conditions and their students' learning conditions. Others who aren't in their room found their feet and they're gone. I have stood here, literally at this podium, countless times, warning boards that you would be impacting the schools for years to come with the chronic underfunding. As you set this advertised tax rate tonight, it is time to right that wrong. You cannot afford to lose the dedicated professionals that sit behind me. You must fully fund that school board budget. No more political football. Now is the time to take action. This has taken years to get in the state that we are now, and it will take your commitment now and for many years to come to right the actions of the past. I speak to you now as a parent who's watched my children's schooling in Stafford deteriorate because of those actions. Class sizes swell, long-term subs teach my students advanced courses. We don't fund innovative programs or even replace basic supplies. Schools literally rely on PTAs and PTOs to meet the needs because every year the school board budget is slashed. I speak to you now as a homeowner in Stafford who understands that my tax rate would be increasing to fund the services, and that is a necessity. I also speak to you as a voter and an organizer, and I am willing to talk to as many people as needed to get a Board of Supervisors who will fund our schools. Set this advertised tax rate at the level that you can fully fund the people who make a true difference in Stafford and make this community a place where people want to live. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one last speaker card, Casey Clark.
Hi, I'm Casey Clark. I am, let's see, I live at 75 Beagle Road in the Falmouth District. I'm a Stafford resident, a Stafford High School graduate, a parent, and a teacher at Falmouth Elementary. I grew up in Stafford, then spent a decade in Norfolk and moved back here 8 years ago. The primary reason we moved back to Stafford was for the school system, for ourselves and for our children. You're likely, I know you're hearing from a number of teachers and school employees threatening to leave if the budget is not approved. I'm not going anywhere. You're not losing me. I have too much invested. I made a lot of financial sacrifices to move back to my hometown in the midst of a recession 8 years ago, to give up my house in Norfolk to be here because this is where I wanted my kids to go to school. It took 8 years, and we finally own our own home here, which we're calling now our retirement home. We're not going anywhere. I have a mortgage. I'm with you in the long haul, folks. I have too much invested in my career. As an elementary art teacher, it takes years to develop a strong program, to build skills in the children, to build trust and relationships with the students and the family and the administrators. My job's gotten harder each year. I teach 20% more students and 20% more classes than I did 5 years ago. And with the projections that the school board just put out, I'm expecting at least 100 more kids 5 years from now. So my job has not stayed the same. And I'm tired. But these are my kids. You know, I know almost 100 or almost 650 of their names. My point is that you're stuck with me for a long time. And I've invested my whole life into Stafford County. My home, my children's education, my career, my talents, and my commitment are in your hands. Now I'm asking you to invest in me. Not because you're afraid of losing me as an art teacher, but because you value me. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the speaker cards I have. I'll remind everyone, this is not the public hearing on the budget, so if anyone else wants to speak on any subject, including this one, you're welcome to come up. Is anyone on my right that wants to address the board? Yes, please come up.
My name's Michelle West. I'm the school nurse at Moncure Elementary, and I live at 47 Jason Lane. And I see Tom Cohen, and I thought Dewey Reynolds, and they were two of my children's teachers, and I thank them because they are amazing. And I want you to know that as the nurse in the county, I fully support this 5% raise for everybody. And I thank you for considering paying the nurses like the teachers. I don't know how many people know this, but we are not paid like the teachers. We make significantly less than them. We have 31 nurses in this county. We have a nurse practitioner that works as a nurse in this county. We have a master's level nurse. We have 4 certified nurses. That's nationally certified, which we are not compensated for, neither are we compensated for the exam. So I just want to ask you to fully fund this. And as a nurse, again, we thank you because finally you are treating us like the licensed professional that we are. We are not service personnel. We are licensed professionals. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on my right? Yes.
Hi, my name's Robin Hayes, 85 Cascade Lane, Hartwood. I'm a 26-year veteran of the same high school I built when it was built, Brook Point High School, and I'm a 30-year veteran here in the county, state of Virginia. My husband and I are putting 2 children through school, and what we have been making is not helping. We don't go on vacations. We pay for our paper and our pencils through our own slightly minimized paychecks. We live in Stafford County. We want to pay the taxes so that we can go on a vacation sometime. Be nice to go on a vacation. It would be. But with 2 kids in college, I work 2 extra jobs. Mr. Cavalier sees me every Friday night, every Tuesday and Thursday for baseball games. I am working every home event at Brook Point High School. I have for the last 12 years to supplement. Now we're trying to save so we can go on a vacation. It'd be nice because we don't get to do that very often. We are 2 public school teachers. We're in Stafford County. We would like for you all to consider seriously the $1.04. Help us survive putting 2 kids from college at the same time. Because they have said, well, maybe we become educators. We're like, I'm not paying for you to go to college, become a teacher, and see what we're going through. It's not fair. We're putting you through college so that you will be successful because they've had great teachers. I pushed them to go to Brook Point High School with me. I forced them. They were supposed to go to Mountain View. They came out top of their classes, very happy with the teachers they have, and if they were still in school, I'd still put them there. We have so many teachers that leave. It's not fair. After 26 years in the same school, I am not considered a veteran. I'm not, because I'm constantly helping new teachers come through. I don't even have time for my own students. I was outside today, 50-degree weather, trying to grade papers, because I teach extra classes to supplement for the math department. We don't have enough teachers, and my class sizes are outrageous. It's not fair, but $1.04 might help us go on vacation sometime. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you, man? Adam's working at Netflix.
Taught him.
Just letting you know. Paul Wadowski, 8 Picket Lane. I watched this afternoon the joint meeting, and I learned that a couple of you were voted in the 20th century. It's pretty interesting. We're in the 19th year of the 21st century, so this is the last year to be a teenager. And if you're up for election in 230 days, exactly, it's a very important election because 2021 we're going to do redistricting, and someone's going to be the chairman in 2021, and someone's going to pick the chairman of the redistricting committee. So whatever you're doing in the schools in redistricting, that's why I spent the afternoon at Alcatraz. I'm on the swim team, if you haven't noticed. One of the things that used to come out in all the school meetings that I used to go to religiously was there was a graph of how many students there actually were every year. Because I was tired of listening to people tell me that, oh, let's do a forecast based on an unadjusted cohort survival ratio. And this was done by Mike Miller. I nicknamed him Mike Miller Light, and his comrade was Rob Kimball. Well, he must have been the fugitive. I don't know why you don't take these charts and compare them, but the one chart you really had, and all you have to do is do one more thing, that you're already doing in 2018. You have all 30 schools. You list the enrollment. You have 28,905. And Miller Light and Kimball, let's see, they said in 2019 you're going to have 27,396. I didn't have time to give you the variance, but they're wrong. Now, the other thing I was looking through in my old records was I heard everyone comparing other counties. Well, quit comparing this county to other counties. We are 280 square miles, minus 55 from Quantico. That's 225 square miles. Spotsylvania County has 401 square miles. So you're comparing apples to oranges. It's quite simple. I learned something today. I always tell people that we should have the town of Falmouth, but now I understand in 1728 why it's all gone. Towns and villages are north of the Mason-Dixon line.
Thank you. Anyone else on my right wishing to address the board, please come on down. Yes, please. If you want to address the board, come on and line up. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jill Lind, and my address is 47 Trail Ridge Lane, Fredericksburg, but that's the south side of Stafford. Wasn't planning on speaking, so I'm a little nervous. The house is for sale, just so y'all know. One thing I learned with moving here in 2006, I'm an educator, 20 years, 12 years, Stafford County Head Start, yay. I saw real quick of how expensive the homes were and how little the teacher pay was. So I wasn't liking Virginia right off. Went into Stafford County schools. My children have been in them. They still are. And there's so many wonderful people. The bottom line is communities need education. Without that, there's nothing. And we're probably going to move north. Not necessarily that I want to. I just feel that it's time. But I would like to see, we want world peace, but that's the Montessori approach to education. If we can build stronger communities, and it truly is the power is in education. So I hope that you as the Board of Supervisors and the Board of Education can make something work, because it's hard. I have a file of signs here that I wasn't planning on speaking. But I have a master's degree and 20 years experience, and my husband makes 3 times my pay, and he doesn't have a degree. Not that he doesn't deserve it. He served his country. But I serve this country, and so do all these people here. I have more injuries, work-related injuries, than my husband has ever sustained, and he was in battle 3 separate times. I wish you all well, and hopefully you'll vote and we can work something out, because Stafford County really is a great place. I just wish educators were more valued.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Whitlock, and I live at 14 Century Street, Stafford, Virginia. I just need to say that teaching is my calling in life, and I've been teaching for 25 years, 18 of which have been in Stafford County. I am currently an English teacher of 173 students. I teach middle school. I work at least 12 hours per day and answer parent and student emails after that 12-hour day is done. I worry about my students, and I pray for them each day. My children attended Stafford County Public Schools, and they all received a quality education by teachers that gave them every bit of time and energy that they had. Currently, I spend much of my own money on students, which is extremely difficult for me, especially since, according to my budget and inflation, I bring in less money than I did 10 years ago. And I am having a very hard time making ends meet, even though I tutor and teach summer school. I have a great husband, and he currently travels 2 hours to and from work to help compensate our budget, because I love what I do in a county that I fell in love with. I am willing to spend all of my time and effort on my students because I value each and every one of them, and I would do anything for them, even put my life on the line for them. I'm hoping that Stafford County public employees are valued enough to fully fund the budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sydney Sneezik, and I live at 6 Collins Court in Stafford. I'm a first-year teacher from Pennsylvania, and I teach 8th grade English with Karen, actually. And I heard of Stafford through my university's teacher recruitment day. The first school district who showed any interest in me was Stafford County. Out of all of the districts whom I interviewed with, Stafford was the only school district who truly made me feel like a quality educator and not a child. Each interview I went through, I felt as though there was no reason for me to be there. My interviewers treated me as if I was dispensable and that it would not be a loss if I was not hired. But Stafford called me 10 minutes after my interview to tell me, "We want you." I was thrilled, but I was terrified to move states away from my family and my friends and my childhood and everything that I know and that I love. But I was willing to take that risk because I felt that I finally found the perfect school district for me who truly wanted me, and that perhaps I truly had found a place to start my dream job. I felt as though perhaps this was the profession that I was meant to do because a highly rated school district wanted me, a first-year teacher, in one of their highest-rated middle schools. But as my first year has gone on, unfortunately, that beautiful mask has begun to fall away. When I first arrived, I thrived on the high expectations of me, and I felt that I could rise to the challenge of teaching 165 students, that I could work 80 hours a week, that I could listen to the deep, heartbreaking secrets that my students share with me, or that I could maintain or exceed the highest SOL scores. I felt that I could do this because I felt wanted. Over the past 6 months, that feeling has faded. And in order to reach that expectation, I'm in school on average from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. just trying to keep my head above water. And as I did not grow up here, my only life down here is my school. And all that I have time for because I want to exceed the expectations. I want to do everything I can to inspire the children that I teach to be the best versions of themselves in order to make the community around us thrive. However, it is very difficult to convince my students when I'm not feeling the same support from my own community. I took a risk to leave my life behind and start over for a school district who I thought it was worth it and who thought I was worth it. And this 5% raise would prove to me that this county indeed believes in me, as well as education, the incredible children in this community, as well as all of the educators in this room. If that risk that teachers take is worth it to you, then make it worth it to your children, to your teachers, and to your community by taking that same risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bill Johnson Miles, and I live at 121 Kimberwick Lane, which is in the Griffiths Widewater District. I'm the secretary of the Stafford Democratic Committee, the second vice president of the Stafford NAACP, a board of trustee member of my church, and I'm a 20-year Navy retired veteran. I came up here actually to speak about a different topic, but after seeing the sea of red here, I've changed my mind. I'm not a teacher. I don't have kids in school here, but I support every single teacher here. They are all our everyday heroes educating our kids. And my friends, it's all about the kids. By paying our teachers what they are worth, you are keeping the best and taking care of our kids. Education must be a priority. It wasn't that many years ago when the percentage of Stafford's budget here that went to schools was about 67%. Today, it's around 50%. I have done a lot of canvassing in this county the last couple of years, knocking on Stafford doors to help our candidates. At every door I ask the residents, the voters there, what their top issues are. Education is always in the top 3. So then I asked them, would they pay more taxes if it went to education and teacher pay? And just about every single person, a very high percentage, said they would, but only if it was guaranteed to go to the schools. let's see here. What happened recently in West Virginia? What happened recently in Oklahoma and in Los Angeles? So we want that to happen here. It's time we took care of our teachers. It's time we took care of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Kathy Zellock, and I live in Aquia Harbor. I'm not really going to talk about money, even though it's been 12 years since I had a step increase. But I just wanted to say, I hope you guys know how important teachers are. Whether a student sits in class bored and apathetic, or whether a student lights the fire of curiosity and starts to believe in himself, is based on the teacher, not even technology. I got a smart board I didn't ask for, I don't want. You know, no one asked me, do you need this, do you want this? It's the teacher that counts. And also I have to agree the class size, because a lot of students come to school after years but in the public school system, they've lost belief in themselves and they want to be left alone. They want to fail in private and peace. But if they're in a small classroom, they can't hide. And a teacher actually has a chance to work with that student and light a fire. And I've done that before. And it's the best feeling in the world when you take a student who has no belief in themselves, him or herself, and you make them believe in themselves. So the teachers are everything. Put technology below teachers. Ask the teachers what they want, what they need. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Mayer. I live at 12 Novak Drive. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but then I saw everyone who did speak, and most of them were veteran teachers. I'm considered a new teacher. This is year 4. I just made the switch from middle school to high school, but I'm not a new teacher anymore in the county. I'm one of the veteran teachers, and I have 4 years experience. I value my 4 years experience. I'm thankful for my 4 years experience, but I shouldn't have the most experience in my school. There's so many teachers that do have more experience, but as I keep going, it's just, they're leaving. I lost my mentor my first year, phenomenal teacher, got a job for the government to support her family. I can't afford a house here, so I rent with 3 other teachers. We all live in one little house with 3 bedrooms and 1 refrigerator and 1 living space for all of us to be able to teach and work in this county. When I talk to them, we all have the same struggles. We continue to buy things for our classrooms. We spend our money just like everybody else here. We have numerous other jobs. We have to go to grad school so we can get a raise, because that's the only way you can get a raise around here. And when you do, you have to pay for it yourself. So not only am I paying my undergrad loan still, now I'm paying for grad school and renting a house because I can't afford one in Stafford County. So with all these struggles, as the only other young teacher who spoke, I left everything in Pennsylvania as well, and I just got offered the other day a job making $20,000 more back in Pennsylvania. I've invested so much in Stafford County. I coach here, I teach here, and I love it. I love the school that I worked at when I was at middle school. I love North Stafford High School, and I don't want to leave. I love it here. I'm valued here from my principal. I'm valued here from my other teachers. I don't feel though I'm valued from the board and from you guys if we don't get the raises that we deserve. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. My name is Christina Schmansky, and I'm at 8 Lunsford Court, and I am another new teacher. I actually moved here just this past summer to teach, and I'm also at North Stafford High School with Andrea, and with a bunch of other teachers that spoke tonight. Probably about 5 or 6 of us from our school did. And I really love it here. I'm a first-year teacher, and I'm one of many at North Stafford that's a first-year teacher, first year ever. There are probably 20 of us that are brand new, because that many teachers left our school. And I know they even told us when we had our new teacher training that 400 teachers left last year. People have mentioned it here, and they only got 300 teachers back in. I am really happy I moved here. I moved here from New Jersey, so not that different from the other 2 new teachers who spoke here. And I left my family, all of that. They're all still up there. I have no one down here other than my school, and they've really become my family down here in Virginia, and I love it here, and I don't want to leave. So I would be really happy, just like the rest of us would be, if we do get that pay increase, because I want to really start a life here and stay here, because this district felt like home from when I interviewed and even onward. I really, really care about my students. I constantly end up saying and talking about my kids, and people are like, wait, how do you have kids? You're too young to have kids. You look like a kid. And I have to always explain, no, I have 150 of them. They're my students, but they are my kids. And I talk to them every day, and I know all their names. And I've seen them go through either difficult things or great things, and I want to be there for them, and I want to keep staying here. So please do help us get this increase, because I don't want to lose more teachers, more mentors. I already lost one of the teachers I teach world history with this year. She went up to Washington to do a job for the government to help provide for her family, and she had been here for a long time. And I want to keep these teachers who have been here, some of them as long as I've been alive, so that they can help me learn and grow, because they have the experience that I don't. I'm still figuring it out. I freely admit that I don't always know what's going on, and I need them to help me so we can keep going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rose Averett, and I live at 1 Gentle Breeze Circle in the Heartwood District. And I am also a teacher here in the county. I absolutely support this 5%. And actually, Ms. Bomke, I think it was you that said that the number of our students, we are 20%, the students are 20% of this county. So really, I just look at the sea of red as we are representing the students. We absolutely are. So when you invest in us, you truly are investing in the students. But really, I had this whole thing mapped out what I wanted to say to you. Hopefully I look familiar to a couple of you, because what I'm really here to offer you tonight, I've been a resident in this county for almost 20 years, and I've got to say my boys went through the system. They've moved on, graduated college, and here I still sit, and I really love this county. And so I feel for you all and this talk of increasing the tax rate, because it's not just the teachers. I totally get it. We have this police officer over here, and he needs your support. We have fire and rescue that needs your support. And if there's one thing I know about teachers is, it really is a little embarrassing to talk about me, because we spend so much time focused on our students. So I hear all this coming up here, but know that the county has a lot that you all have to fund. So I stand before you to say that you'll see more of me, because I wish you all had the sea of red that supported you every time you came together to be behind you to say, we're here for you. What do you need us to go out and tell constituents? How can we support you? So I want you to know that, was it a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, I was at a transportation study meeting, and you all educated me on how that works and how much money that costs. So I was like, wow, I've got to educate myself some more on this. There is a planning commission hearing, I believe, in the Heartwood District for next week that I'll be at for a rezoning of 400 and something homes right across the street on Truslow from me. As much as we as teachers welcome all kids and they bring some great experiences and we enjoy having them, we can't have that. So I'm here to support you, because your biggest question is, what's our recurring revenue? It can't be always, I think, Mr. Dudenhofer, as you said, to keep raising our taxes. So if you need help figuring out how to get some recurring revenue, I'll be there at these meetings, maybe offer some suggestions. But until then, I absolutely support the 104. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Conrad Heller, 1419 Franklin Street in Fredericksburg. I'm a teacher of 19 years at Colonial Forge High School, and I also wasn't planning on talking to you tonight, but just wanted to say real fast, I'm not sure if anybody's ever used Quicken Books to do that budget at home. I'm actually from Germany originally, and as we all know, around the nation there's something going on where teachers feel undervalued. I absolutely love teaching. I love my kids. But it does, I have to say, it just rubs me wrong every single year. I don't get the pay increase necessarily. I bring less money home. And when my wife, who's also an educator, and I sit at home and we have 3 kids, and we look at all the red categories in Quicken, and it's not that we're spending anywhere over, it just makes you feel a little undervalued. And again, it's not that I want to leave. I know that it could pay me $17,000 more if I go up to Prince William. But I don't want to do that. I've lost too many of my peers already from Colonial Forge. I can count the hand, I mean, literally 3 hands, 4 hands. That's what I can count, the original teachers that are still at Forge, because it's been such a high turnover rate. And if I look at countries like Germany, for example, where education is valued, I have friends that are educators over there. They get, twice the amount of money. Again, I would appreciate that 104 tax rate support from you guys, and a 5% across the board. That would be greatly appreciated. So I don't have to look at all the red categories anymore. A little bit more green would be nice. So thank you.
If there's anyone else who would like to speak, would you please come up and line up?
Hello, my name is Daniel Feast. I live at 118 Greenbank Road. I am currently a junior at Brook Point High School, and I'm only 17. But I used to live in King George, Virginia, and I can tell there's a large difference between the education attention span of a large class compared to a smaller class. I was in a class of 6 kids in my German free class in King George, but moved to Brook Point to a class of, I'd say, 10 extra compared to there. And there's a lot more focus on trying to keep the kids' attention compared to King George, where we had more interactive things with the rest of the students and not all teaching based. My mom spoke earlier, and until the beginning of this school year, we lived in a motel, and we barely had food at the end of the month because we had no money to get groceries. So we had to deal with only getting it at the beginning of the month and not being, closer to the end of the month, trying to find something to eat that didn't cost an arm and a leg. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanisha Allen, 110 Addison Court. I'm here on behalf of my neighbors and my mom who couldn't be here. I am the voice for a lot of people in my community who have to work and they aren't afforded the opportunity to take time off from work. So I just want to start off by saying that my husband is an educator in Washington, D.C. He has a master's in special ed and a specialty in autism. When we first moved to Stafford County, he never considered Stafford. The pay difference between his position in D.C. and Stafford is $30,000 a year. He tells me every day, I'd rather get up and leave at 5 a.m. to commute and come home at 9 o'clock at night and not see our kid because I cannot afford to leave $30K on the table. So I ask you all, how would you like to live on $2,500 a month, as some of these teachers do? Would you be able to pay your rent, your food, your mortgage, your car note, your doctor bill, clothes for your students, your kids, supplies? If this county is growing at its current pace, which is the 3rd fastest in Virginia, how are we going to keep up with the need of new families, of schools? How are we going to attract the best of the best? Stafford is one of the best communities. That's what led me to move here. I didn't pick any other county. I moved to Stafford for a reason. And my daughter's soon going to be in the age of going to school, and it's making me consider, should I pay for private school or should I send her to Stafford because of the stories that I hear from my neighbors of the schools that are zoned in her area. They constantly tell me of the high turnover, the low morale, the lack of programs, the lack of equipment, the building issues and all that, the transportation issues. And as a taxpayer, I have no problem paying $1.04 extra, none whatsoever, because as the old cliche said, if the children are our future, we deserve to leave a better one for them. That is your job. That's my job as a parent. And I'm going to make sure until the day I die that I do leave one that's better for my kids and everyone else in this room. And you owe it to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak? If you do, please line up behind this gentleman.
Good evening. My name is Alan Watkins. I'm a teacher at Colonial Forge High School. I live at 314 Hope Road in Stafford, obviously. I don't really have anything to say to you directly because I already said my piece in a video presentation that I sent to you earlier in the day. It's about 12 minutes long. It includes a lot of information, and I hope you spend the time, please, viewing it and taking it seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Perkins, and I live at 9 Copper Court. It's the Hartwood district? I'm not quite sure. I'm a third-year teacher, so not a new teacher, but I kind of have my feet wet a little bit, and I started researching other jobs that I could do that could help me pay my $900 a month student loan payments. That's just undergrad. I also went to graduate school, and I just recently completed my master's degree, so those haven't kicked in yet. Those are still in remission. I'm getting married in November, and thank God I have parents that love me and are fitting the bill for that, but I also have to move in with my parents because I can't afford to live and pay my rent and pay my student loan payments on my $2,500 a month, once a month salary. I love my job. I love teaching. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I walk into school every day, and you have to be there. You have to know the joy of these students when they walk in and you are their person. And I wouldn't give that up for anything. If that meant I had to live in my parents' basement forever, I would. But please think about this vote. Think about 1.04. You have to keep good teachers. I've seen so many good teachers leave. I work with amazing men and women who work every day, but we are tired. We need hope. We need the faith from you guys to keep going. So please keep that in mind when you're making your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board on any subject? Seeing none?
Just me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay.
You go ahead.
I'm not real tall these days. I'm Robbie Thomas. I live at 110 Greenfield Road. That's in the Rock Hill District. And I've been teaching with Stafford County 30 years. I have had this same discussion with you all no less than 5 times. We can't get on the same page without looking at this together. I mean, why can't we adjust the money going to education from the loads of people that we have coming in here? We have tons and tons. I drive by 3 brand new subdivisions on my work every day. I live out, Countrywood Estates. And they're all zoned for tons of houses. Where are we going to put all these kids? What's the temperature in here right now? At 8:31, the air conditioner kicked on. Okay, when you have a classroom that's about half this size, but you put this same number of people in it, okay, the temperature goes up. And in your Psych 101 class, everybody learned that when the temperature goes up, so does the talking. When the talking goes up, so does the attitude between the two students that are now conversing. And it usually gets more adversarial. Now, we don't want that to happen. We need to have this budget funded. In all honesty, you need to tack a couple % onto it. I mean, get ahead of the game for once. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Anyone else in the chamber wishing to address the board on any subject? I don't believe there's anyone left upstairs, but if there is, come on down. Okay, I'm bringing it back to the board. I'm going to tell you, folks, I have always found that the brain cannot absorb if the backside cannot endure.
Amen.
And mine is not enduring too well right now, so we're going to take a brief recess. Agenda, item number 12, new business. Finance and Budget, authorize the county administrator to advertise a public hearing to consider calendar year 2019 tax rates, fiscal year 2020 budget, the fiscal year 2020-2024 CIP, Lynn Haven Lane Service District tax rate, utilities rate increase, Virginia Public Schools Authority debt authorization. Proposed resolution R19-70. Understand the Lynn Haven Service District it would be at 20 cents. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So move the advertised rate, the last year's rate, whatever.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, this item needs to be found time sensitive for the board to act on it
that's
tonight.
Correct, you
all
are
of them,
correct.
right? Can we do them all at once?
I would suggest the board taking up that action first. It requires a supermajority vote or 2/3 vote.
But we can do them all at the same resolution.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to find this matter time sensitive.
I have a motion. Do I have
And
a
I
second?
second.
I have a second. Do I have any discussion? No discussion. Cast your votes. Tally the vote. Motion passes 7-0. Back to the original resolution. Do I have a motion for R19-70?
I'd like a motion for R19-70 to set the advertised tax rate at 1.04.
I have a motion to set the advertised tax rate at 104. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a substitute motion that we set the tax rate at the current tax rate of 99 cents.
I have a substitute motion to set the current tax rate, to set the tax rate at the current rate of 99 cents. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mrs. Mowers. Any discussion? No discussion? This is, go ahead, I'm sorry, Ms. Maurer.
So there's one thing that one of the teachers said. First and foremost, we've got to separate two items. Just because the tax rate isn't $1.04 doesn't mean we don't support the 5%. That's number one. We can do 5% within 99 cents. Because if we did the hard thing, there was one teacher that said something, it said, to do the hard thing is to do $1.04. And I don't believe that's true. To do the hard thing is to really look at this budget and to prioritize teachers in this budget over, another teacher said, I got a smart board and I didn't even want it. And for years, we have been putting money across the street, and I'm finding that the prioritization hasn't been with the staff. It hasn't been with the teachers. It hasn't been with the educators. And unfortunately, we don't have the right to make sure that you guys get the salaries that you deserve. And so the hard thing is to dig in the budget and ensure that we're prioritizing teachers, that we're prioritizing this 5%. And for me, I can't agree that somebody who's making $150,000, $160,000, even $248,000 at Stafford County Public Schools deserves the same 5% as those that are sitting here before me. I didn't see a single person making six figures walk up and say, I deserve 5%. But that's what $1.04 means. And quite frankly, I can't support that. I do support the educators. I do support the teachers. I've got kids in this school. And there was one, Mr. Heller, sorry I missed you. My daughter loves you. And so we sent $6 million, $6.2 million. It was a 3-cent tax increase. It's one of the largest increases in the budget last year. And the year previous, we sent money across the street specifically for raises, and the school board didn't vote for raises. They prioritized something else. And the year before that, we didn't have to increase the budget because for 10 years, they were taking $8 million a year that was earmarked in the salary line item and spending it on other things that neither the Board of Supervisors or the school board knew about. I mean, so it's the hard thing. The hard thing is to ensure that we are prioritizing the teachers. And the hard thing is to make sure that we're balancing the needs of the taxpaying community and the needs of those that provide those services. And I am committed to doing the hard thing. I'm committed to digging through this budget, because if you go to page 12, and you look at the teachers and providing those teachers 5%, it's only $3.9 million. You're getting 10 from the state. So this isn't, the $1.04 does not mean that I don't support, or the 99-cent and the $1.04 doesn't mean that I don't support the 5%. It just means that I'm willing to do the hard thing and work with you to ensure that that 5% for the teachers and for the bus drivers and for the administrators and for those that are on the front line supporting my children are the ones that are being prioritized.
Any other comments? Mr. Cavalier?
Yeah, last year, we did send a resolution to the school board that forced them basically to do the 2.5% raise. So I don't understand that comment. And that was the only way that they got the 2.5% raise last year. Now, I've supported the 5% position of the SEA from the get-go here. And I still support it, and I support it across the board. And I support it 5% for all the county employees, too. And you know what? I mean, there's been some variations out there. Well, we're going to give 3% only to the administrators. And then somebody said, well, we're going to give 6% to the teachers over a certain amount. You know what? I committed to 5% up front, and I stand by that. But we don't get to set the salaries. The school board does that. However, we just got out of a work session with them, and they said they needed $8 million, about 8.7 according to the school board budget, to get to this number. Now, that's with the extra 1% for the ones over 13 years. But, but it's around $5 million more than what the county administrator's budget currently shows. And we've seen it in the past. That's too much we can't get there from here with the current amount of transfer that we have allocated in the county administrator's budget. If we don't add to that budget, we will lose ground with every other jurisdiction around us, putting us further behind than we are currently. And that, I see people in some states now are getting 10%. And, I don't want you all to go on strike. That's the last thing that I hope ever happens in this county, because that's not good for anybody. But you deserve more. I think that, I don't think that within the framework of that budget, because the school budget, 85% is for employees. So there's not a lot of play in the budget. I've heard the song and dance before, well, reallocation and this, that, and the other. And yeah, there would have to be some serious cuts in programs and in personnel, I think, to achieve that. And I don't know, and probably increase class sizes too, which I know none of you are looking forward to. So all those things in consideration, I think we have to look at the increased tax rate, at least advertising it this year, and look into it more. We just saw the school budget today. We shouldn't have to do this, you know, and say that they can make it within, you know, the numbers that we're putting forth right now. It's going to be tough any way you cut it here, but I think we have to give them a little bit more money this year than what is currently allocated. So I'm going to stick with the higher tax rate advertised for now.
Mr. Cohen?
Well, my mic doesn't want to work, so I'll just use teacher voice. Okay, there, now it's working. First of all, this is just the advertised rate. So I think part of the discussion that's being raised is the second vote, which will happen later. As far as doing the hard thing, last year we went through the budgets and tried to do the weaning and the preening and all the stuff that you need to do to try to get the weeds out of it. So I don't think there's any desire on our part not to do the hard work or the hard thing. A couple things that are very important to me. Number one is that we are hemorrhaging employees in this county. We heard a whole bunch of the people in red tonight. One of them called attention to the gentleman in brown. Part of the reason why I insist on doing ride-alongs with our fire, our police, and our EMTs, why I go and do sort of visits to different departments, why I talk and listen to, which is, to me, a very important part of a communication is listening, to the other employees that we are losing to other communities or the private sector, and we are hemorrhaging them. And there is a cost to retraining and bringing people in and re-advertising. And anybody in the business world knows there's this cost, and that cost is being borne on people. So I don't have, a wonderful economics degree. Thank you. I have a poli-sci degree and an education degree, but there's got to be a logic here that we need to stop hemorrhaging our employees across this entire county. I also have a great concern about the debt. We have a large debt that we owe in this county, and maybe it's being that my family got here so long ago, and I'm technically a Yankee, but I don't like debt. And when we were dealing with school construction or when we were looking at road solutions, the fact that we have so much debt, it stares us in the face, and it is problematic. And so I think we need to wrap our heads around what we need to do to stop hemorrhaging our employees, who, by the way, end up going north, which adds traffic on our roads, which makes our roads horrible, and what we need to do to fix our debt, which would give us money to help other situations that would, help us with our infrastructure. So I'm for the $1 rate. It would give us time to go through the school budget. I announced, I think everybody heard me, I was not pleased that we didn't get it till today. And last year I went through it very, very in-depthly. I will do it again this year. I will listen to people who have gone through it to see where there can be sensible cuts. But if you go with the flat rate of 99 cents, it gives no flexibility at all and no intelligent predicting for the future so that we can get our hands around some important issues.
Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Shelton.
Hi. The reason I set it at the advertised rate for 104 is because I believe in wiggle room. Sorry about my voice. And the point of the wiggle room is that, yeah, it's a higher rate, but that doesn't mean we're going to give it to you. And why I'm telling you that is because I agree with our colleagues that up here that, number one, getting the budget at the last minute is very difficult for us. The other part is that it's very, very, very important for everyone to realize that and I think you've heard it, and I think you do understand that we have a lot of competing priorities. You talked about the sheriff's department, the fire department. We all have all these things. One of the most, I think, important things that we as a board came to face with this year was when we were looking at this great transportation project that we wanted to do to address our road issues, to get in front of our infrastructure issues, was to find out that we really couldn't afford to do it because basically our debt service, also known as our credit card debt is so high, we have no flexibility. And so I want us as a board to have some wiggle room, to have some very open discussions about how we're going to pay down that debt service, also be able to fund the things that we need to do, and be able to give you guys the things that you deserve as well on salary. Now, that's part of that to me, and I said this earlier with the board, the school board, is that it's very, very important that they recognize the priority that you have. The school board and everyone else has educated me on one thing for you, is that the most important person to that child, that student, is you. It is the people that are facing them. You're the one who makes the difference. And so if you're the one who makes the difference, you're the priority for the school system. It's not a mural, it's not smart boards, it's not those things. It's got to be you first. And so while I support the advertised rate, that doesn't mean I'm going to give it, because our intent is we want to be able to see that the school board is going to make you guys the priority that we believe it should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheldon. Any other comments? Ms. Bonke?
So I'm sorry. Did you say? Oh, that was Wendy coughing. Okay.
It's not about what you say.
Okay. So I have a couple of comments. I was kind of taking notes as everybody was talking. And I want to say that I really appreciated everybody's comments. I appreciated listening and really enjoyed listening to your stories. My children are all out of Stafford County Public Schools, where they received a phenomenal education. Dr. Chase, who gave our budget presentation, I knew her when we were in a PTO together at Falmouth Elementary. So I've known her for 15 years. We've had numerous conversations, probably once a week, about the school board and some of the decisions they're making. But I think it's really important for you all to know, and a few colleagues have already said this, we're trying to set an advertised tax rate tonight. It's a very difficult decision, and we received a link from the school board on Friday on their budget. I was out of town for the weekend. Today, I received this budget book at 5 o'clock tonight when we had our budget work session. Is that fair to us? No. It's not acceptable. And I'm very frustrated with that. And we will work with our county administrator and the superintendent next year to make sure this doesn't happen again. We're trying to make a difficult decision on behalf of the community at large, all of you, our county employees, and then we're trying to figure out what our advertised tax rate is. And I haven't even had a chance to go through all this data and look at it and analyze it and ask questions. And I also want to say, whoever put out on Facebook that you believe that Supervisor Bomke is the fourth vote for setting a higher tax rate, I really find that not offensive, I just find it kind of rude. And I would appreciate that you not ever do that again with my name, okay? I'm a huge supporter of the school division. I've loved the schools for many years. I've lived here for 22 years. But that kind of thing, filling up my inbox, doesn't work for me. I also have to say that last year when I was chairman of the board, and with my colleagues, we did set a 3% tax rate increase. Sometimes I wonder where the money goes on the other side of the street. I find some of the statements that some people made, you know, I haven't had a step in 10 or 12 years. I don't get that. It can't be. Where is the money going? And that's why last year, as Mr. Cavalier said, we sent a resolution over with targeted buckets of where we wanted the money to go. So I'm going to tell you this. I'm not going to support $1.04. I will probably support $1.03. You know, in glancing at the school board's budget, just glancing, because that's all we had time to do, I believe there are some areas in their budget where they could trim. Have any of you had conversations with the school board about what they cut in their budget? The county, we've cut things out of our budget. Have they scrubbed their budget? So, well, Anyway, that's what I have to say. And again, most importantly, I really appreciate all of you coming here tonight and sharing your stories. Because I've been over to Head Start. I was on the school board for 4 years. I've worked in the classrooms as volunteers, been a member of the PTO for 12 years. So I've been in the schools, and it's different every year in teaching school. And then the last thing I wanted to say was just about the state of Pennsylvania. If you're not aware of this, and we don't have this in the state of Virginia because the Commonwealth, the General Assembly sets the gas tax rate. But the state of Pennsylvania has the highest gas tax in the nation. So therein lies the difference. So, and that's why they can compensate their teachers so much more. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Folks, we're not going to take any more comments from the audience. Thank you. Any other
Chairman.
comments? Mr. Cavalier?
Based upon what Ms. Baumke said, I'll make a second substitute motion for $1.03 because I believe the numbers that we're talking about in the work session, which provides the 5% raise to all school employees, plus, let's not forget, the 5% to the county employees, that added another $1.6 million. So the 1.6 and the 5.5 million for the schools extra came up to a point of about a little over $7 million, and which adds a little over 4 cents to the tax rate. But I think with a little sharpening of the pens on both sides of the street, that $1.03 can get us there. And so I'll make that as a second substitute motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you only can have one substitute motion on the floor at a time, so you have to dispose of the first substitute before another substitute can be allowed.
Any other comments before we vote on the substitute? Okay, the substitute motion is, as I'm reading it, to set the advertised tax rate at 99 cents, the Lynn Haven Service District tax rate at 20 cents. Does anyone know anything different? Is that all right? Good?
Everything else is advertised.
Everything else is advertised automatically. With that said, cast your votes. Tally the vote. The motion fails 4-3. We're back to the original motion. Is that correct, County Attorney?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. And
The original motion
was for $1.04.
is to set it at $1.04. The Lynn Haven would remain at 20 and everything else is advertised. Any discussion on the $1.04? Seeing none, hearing none, cast your votes. I need to reset. Okay. The motion fails.
Mr.
4-3.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I'll
Cavalier.
make a motion for $1.03.
I have a motion for $1.03 on the advertised rate, real estate tax rate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Ms. Shelton. Is there any discussion on the $1.03? Yes, Ms. Baumke.
I just want to say that this is the advertised tax rate, but we are going to go back and have conversations with the school division. The one thing that I did not say is that I want the raises to go to the teachers, to the bus drivers, to the paras, to the nurses that apparently need $250,000, I think, to bring them up, yes. $700,000 for the 12 years, the teachers that are 12 years plus, and some of these other items that we talked about today. So it's not just the teachers, it's the paras, it's the bus drivers and the monitors, et cetera.
Yes, Mr. Cohen?
And let's us not forget the administrative assistants.
Any other comments? Mr. Cavalier?
All school employees.
Any other comments? Ms. Baumke?
So, and maybe some of us on the board have differing opinions, but I am supporting a $1.03 tax increase, but I am not sure, I'm just telling you where I am. I'm not sure I can support a whatever the increase would be for administrators or people making over $100,000. So I'm willing to look at all of the issues. It's not going to be a blanket for me on how I end up voting. There may be 5% for some, 2.5% for others. So I cannot endorse a 5% across the board for everybody. But that's me, Meg Bomke.
Any other comments? Ms. Shelton?
I had said earlier, and I want to remind people of something. There was a comment that you guys made about why Prince William can have this if we're the richest, or not the richest, but whatever it is, that we make a certain amount of money. I don't think you're aware of this, is that we need to focus. This is what I need from you guys. I need you to focus on spending your money in Stafford. And so one of the things that we learned is leakage. When you go outside of Stafford and you spend your money, you're giving Spotsylvania, you're giving Prince William all the money they need to pay their teachers. We need that tax money here in Stafford so we don't have to continue to raise property taxes to be able to pay for roads and teachers. And so, yeah, I like what Ms. Bomke's saying. I agree with her. I want to see some control and some measures put in place. And I do support the idea of giving all the people, and I would say we could say less than 100,000, but whatever that is, let's give a living wage to the people that earn it. Thank you.
Any other comments? We are now voting to set the advertised tax rate. I want to make sure everybody understands what we're voting on. This is the advertised. We will not vote to set the tax rate until what date? April 16th. So if this passes, it's just the first step. We've still got to go back and set the tax rate. Advertised tax rate, real estate tax rate of $1.03, Lynn Haven at 20 cents. Any further discussion? Cast your votes. Tally the votes. The motion passes 4-2.
Sorry.
You all right? The motion passes 5-2. Oh, I'm sorry, 4-3. As you can see, Ms. Mauer's not feeling well this evening, but she did hang in there. Okay, let's move on. Item number 13, public hearings, economic development. Consider an ordinance to create a separate tangible personal property tax classification applicable to data centers. Proposed ordinance 019-23. John, is that you? Come on down. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. It'll be better.
It on? Yes. Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'll be brief. This presentation is to set a different tax classification rate for data centers. Data centers are one of Stafford County's targeted sectors. They generally are large facilities with a high volume of valuable personal property, business personal property. By state code, they can be segregated into a different tax classification. That's what this public hearing is about. Significant new infrastructure is being laid in Virginia and is expected to increase the demand for data centers throughout the Commonwealth. In 2014, a study recognized that the benefit-cost ratio of data centers was 9.5 in Loudoun and 4.3 in Prince William County, respectively. That means, for example, in Loudoun County, that $1 in every county expenditure in that sector generated $9.5 in revenue. It's a significant revenue generator in economic development in counties in Virginia. It's also a job creator. Across Virginia, there's over 4,000 jobs in data centers. We've been working with other communities and counties in the Fredericksburg region, particularly those members of the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance. We have agreed together that we'd like to set a rate common around the Fredericksburg region that would make us as competitive with our neighboring regions that have data centers. We believe that an effective tax rate of 62 cents, 62 and a half cents technically, would be an appropriate effective tax rate to make us competitive with these other regions. For clarity, the effective tax rate is actually the rate that the taxpayer, in this case a business, a data center, would pay on their business personal property. It's after depreciation. So working with the Commissioner of Revenue, who worked with the other Commissioner of Revenues from Caroline, King County, Spotsylvania, King George, and Fredericksburg, came up with this depreciation schedule that would meet that effective tax rate. Bottom line is, what we're suggesting is that the board establish this separate tax classification for data centers. As you just noted, you will set tax rates in April, and the Commissioner of Revenue will then set the depreciation schedule. We want to, as a region, be a competitive region for data centers. With these new tax rates, effective tax rates, we believe we will compete and we'll have a better chance to attract data centers to Stafford County.
Any questions? Ms. Shelton?
Yes, sir. Would you please go back to your depreciation schedule? So I'm hesitant to ask this, but I'm going to do it. I'm concerned because the only reason that we want to have data centers in Stafford County, and we just talked about this, about how we need taxes in Stafford County, is that the only reason why we would want a data center is to get that tax revenue from them. In addition, data centers don't offer a whole lot of jobs. They do eat a lot of power, depending upon where they're at. They're in some prime locations. So I noticed that we didn't consider Prince William County in this one. And Prince William County recently did the opposite move, where now they're raising their rates. Could you explain to us why there's a difference of opinion there between Prince William, who currently has data centers, and the group of us who do not?
I can't speak to the reasons why Prince William.
Mr. Majowski's itching to get out of his seat. So.
Oh, is he? Okay, okay.
I'll let the Commissioner of Revenue comment.
Looks like the cat that just swallowed the mouse.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sure, that's a good question. And since the depreciation schedule is in my neck of the woods, that's why I was jumping up to answer that question. This is actually Prince William County's depreciation schedule. We saw the success that Prince William County had, and they became the model for both the tax rate and the depreciation schedule. Now, I think you're correct that there are some things occurring in Prince William County that, quite frankly, are spooking data centers, which is why we're getting a lot more interest than we have in the past. They're just bypassing Prince William County from what we're hearing. So we wanted to make an environment as comparable to Prince William County as we could, because we knew they were successful before they started tinkering around with the program. So this actually is their depreciation schedule.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could you tell me why they're doing that? I mean, what would be the advantage of changing it now?
Yeah, I don't know what changes they're making, but I know when their chairman of the board, Corey Stewart, was running for Senate, he was getting a lot of pressure, and there was a lot of concern that they were giving too many incentives away to big businesses. So he started talking about changing some of the depreciation. Well, he can change that, and the tax rate. They don't have a commissioner, so they're one of those backwards counties that doesn't have that. So they were talking about changing some of the workings, and that's just the talk of that spooked several folks in the industry and pushed them down a little bit further south. So that's why we're trying to open our arms and welcome them in.
Thank you very much for your
Ms. Baumke.
So, Scott, it's my understanding that Prince William County has some empty buildings from when they had some data centers, and they're sitting empty now. Do you have any validation of that?
I don't.
Okay. And then I have another question for Mr. Holden, as far as what is our real definition of a data center?
I don't have the code, but data centers are large. I've toured a number of them. They're usually climate-controlled, large buildings with lots of racks in them. With essentially, they replace computer servers. In some centers, Those servers can be owned by the center and leased out, or they're owned by the other client that actually hosts that the data goes through.
Right.
So they're large buildings with, frankly, a lot of computers in them.
Okay, so do we need in Stafford County to have a definition of what we consider to be a data center? I mean, I would think that we would.
Supervisor Bomke, because we're talking about local taxes, the definitions are set by state code. So if you look in ordinance 1923,
Okay.
it's defined per state code for that definition.
Okay, so we have no, we go with the state. I get it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Is anyone on my right that would like to speak for or against? Anyone on my left? Seeing no one step forward, I'll bring it back to the board and close the public hearing.
Mr.
Do
Chairman?
I have a motion?
Yes, I move for 019-23.
I have a motion by Mr. Cohen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Shelton. Any discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Tally the vote. Motion passes 5-1 with one absent. Item number 14, Planning and Zoning, approve a request for a conditional use permit to allow auto service automobile repair and motor vehicle sales in the B2 Urban Commercial Zoning District on tax map parcel number 45-15B. Mr. Harvey.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. I'm Jeff Harvey, the Director of Planning and Zoning. The public hearing tonight is to consider a conditional use permit in the George Washington District. If I can have the computer, please. The conditional use permit would be for automobile service, repair, and sales. It's in a B2 zoning classification on a little bit less than an acre. The applicant is an agent for this project is Sam Shalaby with Development Consulting Services. The site is highlighted in red on the map. It's zone B2 urban commercial. All the surrounding properties in the immediate vicinity are also zone B2 urban commercial. You'll notice when you drive by this area on South Gateway Drive that it's pretty much surrounded by property that's developed for the auto auction. There is an automobile repair facility also located right next door. This is the aerial photo of the site. We have undeveloped property, and you can see from the aerial photo a large parking lot to the east and also to the north. There's retail sales immediately to the west with the shopping center, as well as another automobile sales facility in this upper left-hand corner here. This is the generalized development plan for the project. It proposes a 3,400 square foot building with 4 service bays. There would be approximately 12 parking spaces in the front of the site, which would be designated for vehicle display for cars that are for sale. There'd also be 5 parking spaces devoted to customers coming to the site, whether they be for the sales operation or for the repair business. The traffic volume for this type of activity would be very low. Estimated trip generation would be typically less than 100 vehicle trips per day, 10 in the morning and 12 in the afternoon. There are a number of conditions that are being recommended with this use permit that would minimize potential impacts. When we look at the comprehensive plan recognizes this property within the Southern Gateway targeted growth area. And specifically, in more detail, it's recommending commercial, retail, and office uses. The automobile repair and service activities are compatible with that recommendation. Staff notes that there's text language in the comprehensive plan suggesting that auto sales be located closer to major arterial roadways such as Warrenton Road. However, given the neighborhood in which this site's located, it's definitely compatible and consistent with what's already existing in the area. This is the proposed architecturals that the applicant has provided with their application. Staff will note that it's not part of the conditions for the permit. The applicant at this point in time is not committed to a specific architectural design. The proposed conditions of the permit stipulate conformance with the generalized development plan, limiting access on the South Gateway Drive to ensure that there's adequate traffic flow in the area, dedication of right-of-way and sidewalk along the road frontage to enhance pedestrian access, that all service or repair of vehicles be conducted within the service bays. The outdoor storage of inoperable vehicles be limited to 10 days to minimize concerns that we may have junk vehicles on site. As I mentioned earlier about the parking spaces for customer use, that all vehicles will be parked on paved parking spaces, not within green space and travelways. So that ensures that the site's not overutilized. There'll also be proper disposal of hazardous materials, limitations on outdoor storage and display of materials, and typical screening standards. The signage would also have to be complementary to the architectural design of the building when that's determined. When it went to public hearing at the Planning Commission, the commission suggested some additional conditions for the permit, specifically dealing with hours of operation. Also, if there were any vehicles leaking, that they would be repaired, taken inside the service bays and repaired immediately. And that the parking spaces along South Gateway Drive would be designated for display purposes only as shown on the generalized development plan. With regard to the positives and negatives, staff believes it's consistent with the comprehensive plan land use recommendations, consistent with all the other auto sales and repair and service type of facilities in this nearby vicinity and adjacent to the property. It would have very limited traffic with this use. The sidewalks would benefit to the community, and the conditions would minimize potential impacts. As far as any negatives, as I mentioned earlier, there's a text in the comp plan that recommends that vehicle sales be located closer to Route 17 or the major arterial roadway, and that specifically the building designs have not been committed to at this point in time. The staff and Planning Commission are recommending approval of the application pursuant to Resolution R19-34.
Any questions of Mr. Harvey?
I have a question, Mr.
Michelle.
Chairman. I did watch the Planning Commission meeting, but I didn't really understand one thing. Can you go back to the hours of operation, sir? And so, next one, oh, I didn't realize you had it like that. I didn't understand the hours of operation for this type of facility because most of the people here work up north. And so to be able to drop off your car or get your car worked on between 8 and 6 p.m. is like impossible. So why was the limitation set at that for 8 to 6?
Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Sheldon, I don't recall the specifics as to why those hours are set at that time range. However, the commission felt that it was important to not be a 24-hour operation. I can ask the applicant to address specifics on their business model if you'd like.
If this is okay with the applicant, I'm just saying as a consumer, those hours of operation would not be, I would not go there. I would find someone that would open at 6 so I could drop off my car before I went to work. And so I'm just asking that. And so I didn't hear that conversation at the Planning Commission, and I didn't see the discussion around it. So I thought maybe there was some background information that you guys had talked about where the applicant wanted to set it at that time. He doesn't have to serve me. I'm fine.
Any other discussion, questions? Ms. Bumpy?
Mr. Harvey, is there, so they are not giving us a GDP for what the building's going to look like? That was just a very rough draft, and it may not look like that at all. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Baumke, the GDP, which is the layout of what the site would look like,
Right.
as far as the building layout, that is a condition of the permit.
I'm sorry. yes.
However, the image you see in this picture is not committed to with the conditions.
Right, I'm sorry, it's been a long evening. Yeah, just the building itself. So they're giving us the GDP and the land layout. But, so the building may look completely different than what we see there.
It could, yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Is the applicant present?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Sam Shalaby with Development Consulting Services, 159 Litchfield Boulevard. It's been a long evening, so I will try to make it short and just try to answer the questions. With regard to the hours of operation, we didn't have anything set originally, and the Planning Commission was saying, well, what hours are you going to be open? And just kind of discussion went back and forth, and we said, you know, we're kind of open. And they said, okay, how about 8 to 6? We said, fine. We're willing to go. Obviously, the applicant would prefer to go a little earlier and a little later, just because what you said. So if the board is okay with that, we can, you know, maybe adjust the hours, make it from 7 to 8 or 6 to 8, or if, you know, I don't know if it needs to be really limited in any way, because everything around it is commercial. There is no houses. So if the board's acceptable with that, maybe we can change it. With regard to the elevation, we're perfectly fine. Kind of, if you want to put that as a condition, that'll be very close to this look. This is kind of what he wants. It's just because there's no design, we kind of were afraid that in case something changes, but if we can put a condition that basically will be pretty close to this look, or pretty close to this, you know, we have no problem with that. Because that's kind of the building that the applicant would like to have, so.
Yeah, I mean, just, it looks like, it's a nice looking
Yeah,
building.
and we're okay
and
with
it's
that. So if we can
acceptable,
add that as a condition to say that, yeah, we will go with, you know, this building here.
Just so it's not going to be a 2 or 3 story building,
No,
right?
no,
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think so, no. So,
Okay.
and I think one of the conditions was limiting the size and limiting the number of bays, so it's
Right.
pretty limited what it could do. But yeah, we're fine with adding that too. Besides, like I said, I think we tried to cover everything with the Planning Commission. There was some concerns about the display. That's why we restricted the spaces in the front for just display only. Basically, the cars are for sale. Any cars are being repaired, they'll be either in the back or, you know, in the bays. So there'll be no cars are, you know, damaged or whatever that's sitting outside. So again, I don't want to take too much time, but I'll be glad to answer any particular questions you guys might have.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you.
Now I'll open the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak for or against, please step forward. Since we don't have a large crowd here tonight, I won't go right to left. Seeing none, I bring it back to the board. Mr. Cohen, and close the public hearing. Mr. Cohen,
Yes, I move for approval of R19-34.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Cavalier. Any discussion?
I'll see.
Mr. Cohen?
Just quickly, I know that my planning commissioner worked in depth with, because he does that, with the applicant on that. It fits the area, and it's a way to promote business in the area. It fits in with that area, so that's why I'm for approval.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Yes.
sorry to, I just want to clarify the motion of the board. I believe Mr. Cohen's intent was to add in the things that were mentioned by the applicant. So while the applicant doesn't have to initial them, the board does need to make it part of the motion.
All right, so I'll move for approval of 19-34 with the addition of what the applicant said about the design of the building being similar, very similar to the picture, and the hours of, say, 7 to 8.
Yeah, give him more
okay?
time. I think we should be flexible.
Yeah.
That's usually when I drop off my car.
Yeah,
6 to 8?
I'd go
whatever
6 to
makes
8.
you
6
more.
to 8, that way people are stuck in DC can get there.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, I have amended motion. Who seconded that? Mr. Cavalier, you agree with the same? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. Tally the vote. Motion passes 6-0 with 1 absent. Folks, that does end our day. I want to thank staff. You guys have been here since I've been here at 9:30 this morning, and you've done an excellent job. So thank you so much for what you did today. Hopefully, Mr. Foley will give you a little comp time or something tomorrow. With that said, we're adjourned.